The Dubai 24 Hours reaches a landmark edition in 2025, the 20th time that we will have run this fabulous event, the precursor really to the motorsport season in only the second weekend of January, and a cracking scene here and around, frankly, because I've not actually been here in person, though in voice, for the last 5 years, and I could be forgiven for thinking that we're in a completely different venue looking at the skyline. It is that impressive. Also, the route to our commentary box has entirely changed, so much so I thought we were in a different space this year for Lanson, and it's actually just taken me the last 5 minutes to walk around and go, oh no, this is the same airspace but a completely different route to actually occupy it. So it's been a challenge, something that I am overcoming even as we speak. This is the first of two Middle East trophy races then, the 24 Hours of Dubai, followed next weekend by the 6 Hours of Abu Dhabi. You'll remember in 2024 we actually did the reverse and headed to Abu Dhabi in the third weekend of Jan. And the final weekend of January was the 24 Hours of Dubai, a momentous weekend of 24-hour racing when it combined, well, not combined, but it was also running at the same time as the 24 Hours of Daytona. That's still to come here on the Radio Show Limited network of channels in a couple of weekends' time. It is kind of nice, Phil Anson, to be back in the traditional slot, though, for this race.
It is indeed, and it's lovely to have you back, Johnny. Talking to you remotely just doesn't have the same feel, and we don't get the excitement. There we're looking over the Apex Garden, another great thing here at the Autodrome, as you have noticed that everything has grown around. The actual structure around this race has grown as well, and lots more for the public to do here on the weekend. So if you're listening and want to get down here on the weekend, it's free. You can come in and watch some of the best drivers on the planet battled out over 24 hours.
A very exciting season to come for Creventic as well. We've mentioned the first two events, but then after that, from March onwards, we venture to the European campaign. Only one true 24-hour race to look forward to, which is Barcelona in September, but a lot of 12-hour races. We're looking forward to, again, a three-element 992 qualifying session, and the cars for that are already lining up for the generally exclusively AM 15 minutes. But before that, Joe Bradley, we have some mopping up to do from the first group of qualifying sessions that happened before the Clio qualifying. A great result for the 102 as best racing team with their Cupra.
Yeah, a little bit of time before we get focused on the 992 class. Lutz Obermann, you guys, you put the 102 Seat on the pole position. Lutz, tell me a bit about the qualifying session, how it came about.
Exactly, yeah. We had a great start yesterday into the practice, did a few setup changes overnight and found the right balance for the car. So today, teamwork effort, full of effort during the night, and set up the car perfectly, and was just the right balance with tons of grip on the front axle, and car was really stable, and was fun to throw it around the track and ultimately put it on pole.
It's a great idea, the aggregate score of three drivers. As a driver, it gives you a chance to contribute, and also your teammates.
Exactly, yeah, I love the format as such because each driver gets a go, whereas in other series you only have a single qualifying, so you always get to pick the driver. And we did a fantastic job as a team. Congrats also to all the other drivers out there, and looking forward to the race tomorrow.
What challenge do you see in the race? I mean, the front-wheel drive cars are always a challenge to keep those front tyres in working order. Is that something now you guys can focus on?
Yeah, obviously the degradation of the tires is an issue over time. We'll see how it develops and how often we need to change the tires, and just to keep the maximum grip in. And you can also play with the rear axle a little bit to make it a little bit more mobile. And yeah, looking forward to finding out how the car performs tomorrow.
Great stuff, Lutz. Congratulations to the team. We'll see you on that pole position tomorrow. Thank you, Lutz.
Yeah, well done to the TCE pole sitters with their Cupra TCR DSG. Lutz Obermann, Henrik Sandel, Junichi Omamoto, Akshay Gupta and Nadir Zahur form that lineup, which is 5 AMs, in fact, AM throughout. So there, again, that's a statement to everyone else. Speaking of AMs, though, Phil, this is an exclusively AM session. We do have the combination, though, of 992 pros and AMs. The lion's share are AM cars, 12 versus the 7 Pros.
Yeah, and it was slightly different in the AM cars, who are running all AM drivers in the 992 category, get a special dispensation under code 60. They can refuel to 50%. And I've noticed, and I've been following the HRT team as their entry list has changed, I just noticed all 3 HRT cars are now the 928, 902, 930 totally AM drivers.
Interesting.
That came up this morning, and but we also have the 992 Pro champions from last year's Middle East Trophy and the AM champions racing here again this weekend. The 992, the Red Camel Jordans.nl, they were the 23-24 992 champions, and then we had the 974, and that is the QMMF by HRT, the Qatari run team. They were the AM champions, and they've changed their number this year, and it's quite an interesting one. 974 is the country code for Qatar. Right. And we have the same going for Rabdan by Fugenzi, the local team. 971 is the dialing code for the United Arab Emirates.
I see what they've done there now, but thank you for pointing that out, because I would not have known that otherwise. There's been 1 or 2 stories up and down the field as well, as in the 914 car, which I'm sure we'll catch a sight of in the session. That, I think, is a brand new car after a big crash yesterday for Simon Berg in the 914 car. So no longer is that red and white. It's an all-black machine which has had to be acquired rather swiftly. And maybe a tweak to the driver lineup. I'm waiting for full confirmation on that. But your point about the 50% of fuel that you can get in the AM class, that will be a massive advantage. Well, double, in fact.
Yeah, double, in fact. And remember, this year, you can only refuel once under a code 60 unless it runs longer than 60 minutes. So that's huge for this AM category. And remember, these 992 Cup cars are quick around here. They don't have the drag of the GT3 cars aero. And speaking to some GT3 drivers yesterday, these are a pain for them because they're as quick as the GT3 cars down the straight. Just don't have the aero in the corners. And in the first couple of hours of the race, we'll see some of these 992 cars in the top 10.
The other major change for the 2025 edition of the 24 Hours of Dubai is that we're powered by Michelin for this new season. Now, Michelin and Porsche Cup cars have been long-term bedfellows. However, I don't think this is a Cup car compound.
No.
So there's a lot of learning that regular Cup car drivers are having to do to reacclimatise. I mean, it'll be a similar tyre, but it doesn't behave quite the same as a sprint race for a Carrera Cup race.
I was talking to Chief Engineer down at the Red Camel Jordans.nl, Paul Truswell, earlier on about that, and he said the hardest thing about these tyres is getting the drivers used to them. That was his thing. He said the track is bedding in, as it normally does here. We live in a dusty environment. It's quite slick, and it's quite a smooth surface as well. And just trying to get on top of these tyres, because they're talking about double stinting these overnight, because we're going to be down in the teens overnight, and so the temperature is going to come to the tyres. But yeah, a whole different ballpark this season for all of the teams, which is a fantastic thing, and it's great to have Michelin on board. We know their history, and it's great to have Michelin associated with Creventic for the next foreseeable future. If you haven't been into this qualifying session before, there are 3 15-minute sessions. No refueling and no changing of tyres, not even allowed to take the tyres off unless under a situation where you've punctured a tyre or damaged a tyre, and then that has to be approved. The big thing about not having it, you have to set your fuel load before you go. If you're on your hot lap and a yellow flag comes out, or you do track limits, you really compromise the next drivers coming in. Yes. Because you might have to go, I can't do 4 laps, I can only do 3 laps, because that's the way it is. So the structure of making this work properly is very, very difficult, because you don't know what's going to happen out there.
The quicker you can be in this session, the better for everybody else. But that's why it's been designed, in that the AM will take their time to find their quickest lap time.
And they get the freshest tyres too.
Indeed. And that's by no means derogatory, because the whole point of being an AM, i.e. you're not earning your corn as a professional race driver. Generally, you may have had success elsewhere in business, and then you've got a weekend such as this to come racing. But naturally, you want to use as much of this 15 minutes as possible. Yeah. However, if you can do your lap time in, say, 1 or 2 attempts and then hand the car and the tyres over as fresh as possible, that's then beneficial to your semi-pro and your pro teammates. So it's a fascinating dilemma, really. Very easy to make a mistake this early on in the weekend.
Yep.
But it's your job in this session to keep things as neat and tidy and steady as possible.
So I call the AM drivers very good drivers, semi-pros very, very good drivers, and pros very, very, very good drivers.
Yeah.
It's not easy out there. It's Creventic Racing, the 917, leading the way. Now, all of these cars in the 992 category have a 9 in front of them, except the Seb Jalou Racing, who's running the 888 as the 917. Just takes a little bit of a shortcut. That's our current leader with a 202.895 at the moment, just off down there at turn number 1, and just making his way and bringing a lot of dust back onto those tyres.
Yeah. Now, is there a route, you know, when you overcook it into the first corner, which Andrea Girondi did exactly that. He was actually trying to overtake the fellow Porsche Cup car, which will remain numberless for the time being. We'll try and identify that in just a second. But you know, at some racetracks, if you go very wide at sometimes the first corner, there's also a rule at Monza for the second chicane. You can't then rejoin until a bit further round. There's no such rule there, is there?
No, there's not. But in order to keep, obviously you're going a lot slower, you don't want to come in before turn 2. Okay, you want to come in between 2 and 3, where the car is transitioning to the other cars are transitioning to the right-hand side of the circuit, as any good driver should know. Barging back onto the circuit normally creates issues, apart from that, the rules are pretty simple in Creventic Racing, and it's said at the driver's briefing, and it's in the sporting regulations. If you're being overtaken, hold your line. It's up to the overtaking car to get past you.
Yeah.
And that's why this multi-class racing from Creventic anyway works incredibly well.
Barcelona, where we will be much later on this season, does have such a rule whereby at turn 1 you have to then kind of miss turns 2 and 3 and rejoin. But that was purely Andrea Girondi kind of collecting his thoughts, rejoining, and now he's going to have to spend the best part of the next lap just cleaning those tyres up, bearing in mind he's got to hand the 917 car over to not just 1 but 2 drivers afterwards.
Just under 6 minutes to go in this session. Creventic leading from the QMF by HRT. Now, our AM winners from last year, a full Qatari lineup there, run by the QMF, which is the governing body of motorsports in Qatar, and run by our great friend Amro Al-Hamid, who will no doubt be out here this weekend. Very busy boy, that one. They got a few races on in Qatar this year.
Yeah, indeed so.
Starting off with the WEC in a few weeks' time.
974, if you're enjoying our coverage in both sound and vision, would appear to have no driver at the wheel. That's purely because Abdullah Ali Al-Khalifi's name is too long, I think, to fit in that column. So it's effectively deleted itself. But he is on board the 974 for QMMF by HRT, and second fastest, more crucially for them as they run in the AM class, quickest of the AMs with a 202.963. We can easily get sucked into the individual times here, Phil, but it's all about the averages across the 3 different sessions. And of course, in order to get a proper average, you have to take part in each of the 3 sessions. There is a little bit written into the regulations in that if you don't join one of those sessions, you can still start on the grid, but is behind everybody else that's done the 3-lap average. Yeah,
with the competition here this weekend in this 992 category, and going through this 19-car list that we've got running in the 992s, there are some very, very experienced 992 operators here this weekend. This is going to be an ultra-competitive class this weekend. It's just the amount of names out of Mobil 1 Super Cup, out of all of the, the Langstracken series, lots of very experienced drivers from that series here this weekend. And the one thing that I noticed, we have 2 Japanese teams here this week. The 7x7 Racing running in the 992 class, and JBR running in the 992 AM car class, with David Tan running in the JBR one, who's the only Brit in there, all Japanese drivers. And it was great seeing them yesterday, being very polite, bowing to everybody, but these guys have got some great experience in the Formula GT Championship in Japan, which is incredibly, the GT300 series. So keep an eye on the two Japanese teams. I think they're going to be something to look forward to this weekend.
Are we going to go with 7x7, 7x7? 7 times 7. 7's a very lucky number in Japan, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I'm going 7x7.
By 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would fit for a carpet you're having fitted maybe as well.
Yeah. It's
I haven't been in their garage to know whether it's been fitted with a rug or tiles, or, you know,
yes.
Some teams turn up and really do take over their space for the weekend. Some very impressive setups, as always, here at the Dubai 24 Hours. The 20th edition, the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai. And many cars now in this session, even though there's still 2.5 minutes to go, have parked it, knowing that they don't want to put any more mileage on the tyres. You can't refuel from the start of the session to the end of qualifying 3. And this serves as a good opportunity to catch up with Joe Bradley in the pits.
Yeah, the Mootrons are back, everybody. The Mootrons are back. That's the brothers, Sammy, Ramsey and Nabil. Now, Ramsey is the AM driver that's just qualified the number 950. And everybody congratulating these guys because he's done pretty well, actually, for somebody who hasn't driven a car for 2 years. But, Sammy, I want to ask you, the car has quite a distinctive livery on it, and every sports car fan out there is going to applaud you for doing this. You've got the silk cut Jaguar colours from back in the late 80s, but you were telling me the story behind this, and I think it's a fab story. Tell the listeners and viewers.
Yeah, so back in the mid 80s, my father was responsible, part of the team that was responsible for putting the silk cut sponsorship deal together with Jaguar. Obviously, we lost our father a few years ago. And this being the 20th anniversary of the Dubai kind of 24 Hours, we wanted to do something to honour him, and that's why we put the silk cut livery on it. We're super proud. We think it looks great as well. So super proud to be here and representing him, and with a fantastic team like Huber. Looking forward to a great weekend, really.
Yeah, I mean, I know your dad's always with us in spirit and in wherever the pit lane may be, and it's great to see the silk cut colours on anything, even if it is a Porsche and not a Jaguar. But tell us a little bit about how the team's come together then. This is your home event, isn't it?
Yeah, so, me and Chris Huber have known each other for many years. I think the first time he was out here, we shared a pit box, and we've stayed in touch. We always wanted to go racing together. I think putting a successful team like Huber, they've done wonderful things in Porsches in Europe, and obviously in the Creventic series, and he looks at us as dual racing and some of the work we've done, and really admired the work we've done. So there's mutual admiration there, and hopefully it's building into a slightly longer term partnership. But we've started with this one. They've built us a great race car. We've got some good drivers, so hopefully we have a good weekend.
Now, you're former champions with dual racing, former champions in this series. However, the regulations regarding qualifying changed a little bit. Now, I would have thought that Sammy, Nabil and Ramsey would have been the qualifying drivers, but you've got a little bit of gunpowder in your pockets, haven't you? Who's out next?
Well, yeah, we've got Theo Oberhaus, who's a junior Porsche driver. We call him Spider-Man because he's a bit like Spider-Man. He's a young kid who just jumps around and flies. He gets super excited every time he gets in the car, and then he's really quiet the rest of the day. But he's rapid. And then obviously Phil Keane, close family friend, and he's always here to support us. And as we're getting on, and we're not racing as much as we used to, so kind of breaking out those cobwebs. We thought having 5 drivers would be a wise way to go about it. And obviously we wouldn't mind a win. So. It helps.
You know what? Ramsey's just coming behind you. Hey mate, we were watching that timing screen, and I was thinking, Sammy was telling me you guys haven't been in a car for 2 years, but those lap times didn't reflect that. What secret testing has he been doing?
Lots and lots of go-karting, losing 10 kilos in the gym.
Right.
And just honestly, personal drive and ambition. I've always wanted to get a 3 here, and I got a 3 seconds. So yeah, I'm very happy with that, yeah.
Program on course, Ramsey. Always great to have you guys here. We'll talk to you guys through the race so you can keep us up to date what's going on. Thank you, Ramsey. Great job, mate. Great job. Handing it over to the pros now,
Phil
guys.
Keane back with the team, having gone with the Grove family outfit 12 months ago. But brilliant, as he said, that Phil can be with the Mootrans as a close family friend. And Theo Overhaus, just 20 years old, from Germany, but he did a full season of the Porsche Super Cup last season with Lechner, and a best result of 5th position in the opening round. So a real talent for right now, but certainly for the future as well. And interesting to hear his sort of dynamic, very, very quiet, downbeat when he's not in the car, and then he really does the business when he leaves the pit lane, Phil.
Indeed he does, and that is the conclusion of the first 15-minute session. And we'll have a short break, a couple of minutes, and the cars will line up again with the second 15-minute session on tyres that are 15 minutes old, but 15 minutes less fuel in the tank. So it's once again going to get down to the strategy of the team managers down there in the pit boxes of how they're going to manage this. A nice clean session, nothing, no flags, a few track limits infringements, and we had only 2 track limits infringements, but they weren't on the quick laps. So everybody taking this one very, very seriously, okay? Because in this 992 category, this is going to be so close, like really, really close. In our race spec this weekend, it's always been a great category, but it's just attracting a lot more European drivers now.
Yeah. Well, it's a good opportunity for those drivers to get some action in when there's very little else happening in the motorsport world. I know we've got the build-up to Daytona, but as far as the Carrera Cup season is concerned, this is the down season, and a chance to make sure that you're brushed up and ready for 2025. Because there are so many different Porsche championships in Europe, not least what we've got: Italy, Germany, the Benelux Championship. There's a couple of names, including the Van Eindhovens, who are here this weekend. So 3 sessions of 15 minutes, as we've established. The first one needed to be done by an AM driver, unless you've got an all semi-pro lineup. There are 1 or 2 exceptions, but generally everyone having to stick to the AMs. And you have to have a different driver in each as well, unless you're going with a 2-driver lineup, which would be very brave for a 24-hour race. I don't think anybody is attempting that. Refueling not allowed from the start of Q1 to the end of Q3, and also you cannot change tyres unless you've got a problem, as in a failure, puncture, slow puncture. Then that can be removed, but you need to report that to race control and to the race director to make them fully aware of precisely what you're doing. We had one of those in the earlier group of sessions. This trio of qualifying sessions runs pretty much back-to-back with the GT3s, which will be out at the end of qualifying 3 for the 992s. But it's kind of quite nice to have a spotlight exclusively on the 992s because we've got 19 of them.
Exactly. They're over a third of the field. So GT3s are... And John and I were talking, John Hindhoff and I were talking a couple of days ago regarding the actual pace of this field. Yeah. Like with what we've got in GT3, GTX, 992, we have a lot of very, very quick cars out there. And, you know, looking at the, overall lap record, 628 laps, I think it was.
2012.
Yep, 628 in 2012, somewhere there. Yeah, 2012. That was done by Abu Dhabi by Black Falcon. And our race lap record time-wise was 2021 by GPX 158.606. So it's going to be interesting because it's going to be so quick. You don't have... We've only got 6 GT4s and 3 TCXs. So you don't have... And the 992s, and as we just saw from the GTX, they're hovering around the 2-minute mark.
Yeah.
So they are really, really quick, and great congratulations to the Vortex team. It's great to see Vortex 2.0. We're going to see 2 of them down at Yas next weekend. Excellent. So they've got the one here this weekend. But that car has really come on, and it still, I think, is a lovely looking piece of kit. When we first saw it, we were talking to Lionel Amarouche, and it's just an amazing piece. The work they've done from point 1 to point 2.
Yeah.
But it was...
Night and day.
It literally night and day.
Salem Al-Ketbi in the Rabdan by Fulgenci Porsche. That's the flat 6 you can hear in the background. It's only when you get down to ground level, hopefully you're enjoying us in sound and vision. I remember there is some gradient change around this place as well, and the natural bowl through turn 9 as well that is a slingshot onto the back straight. It's kind of on a diagonal when you compare it to the start-finish, but this is a great overtaking opportunity, particularly in those early laps when the GT3s are in a big old cluster.
Yep.
And down into this turn 10, then you can pick up a few early places in that opening couple of hours.
Well, the thing that's happened over the last 20 years is this track has evolved. There are very noticeable braking bumps down at turn 10 now. When I raced my last season here was 2009, there was nothing down there.
Right.
There's a big bump up on it where the car is at turn 12. The same sort of things. There's a big bump on the apex there. The circuit is built on sand, and so it does evolve and it does move. We are in an earthquake zone area, so things do happen here. But the way the track has evolved over the year. Remember, we have a local championship here as well. We also have Asian Le Mans coming here very, very shortly. So we get quite a bit of racing here, but 20 years of this evolution of this circuit. When I look back to the times that we were doing in 2006, okay, and to what we're doing now, it's the same distance. It's the same, you know, it's the same 5.39 kilometres, 16 corners, 7 left, 9 right. It is the same, but the evolution of tyres, the evolution of car technology, and the evolution of drivers have made this a much quicker place.
Yeah, I suppose it's the regular names that we so often see on a Dubai 24-hour entry list keep coming back and able to unlock the little bits here and there. But then you've got newcomers, debutants, who they're so talented, some of these pros, that they can unlock that lap time almost as if they've been coming here for 2 decades, but it might only be their first or second years. It's aero, it's braking technology as well, which can gain you the seconds in the lap time too. But yeah, so almost up to, well, yeah, 20th anniversary, 2 decades of coming here. And again, we already mentioned that phrase night and day.
Exactly.
Very similar, comparing it to 2006.
2006, 2:10.057 was the fastest lap, and they did 519 laps. So yeah, it's the evolution of motorsport, which puts more pressure on the track.
Yeah,
cars are going faster. We've got more safety stuff inside the car, so the cars are a little bit heavier as well. And just talking about that, Creventic have got a great balance of performance, the way that they do things, which is really cost effective for the teams. You're not having to alter the car massively. They do it by how much fuel you get. Your tank capacity may be 120, but your BOP may be 110. Okay, that's the maximum you can put in at a fill under green conditions. If you run in say GT3 Pro, you're going to pick up 30 kilos of ballast and going to take 5 litres away, whereas GT3 AM, you're going to get an extra 15 litres. So it's really clever the way that they do it, with obviously with the drivers as well, AM drivers. A big thing is they're running in the Pro categories of 992. They have to do now a different race distance. 1/6 is the minimum now. It's not 1/12 like it was last season. So they have to do 4 hours. Remember what happens at these races when we get a long code 60, like barrier repair or whatever, they will whack their AM driver in as quickly as they can, because an AM driver is as quick as a pro driver under code 60, and you don't want to use your pro driver's time running around at 60 kilometres an hour. But what was happening is the AM drivers were just doing the entire race at 60 kilometres an hour under code 60s, which they paid the same entry fee as a pro. So now they have to do that minimum, which is 4 hours, which is 1/6 race distance now, which gives them a lot more track time. And they've also adjusted the distances or the times of the pro drivers as well.
Enrico Fernando Fulgenzi was having the big moment coming out of turn 15, hence both Phil and I having a sharp intake of breath, but he did manage to recover it, the 38-year-old Italian. Loads of experience in Porsches, mainly in the Italia Championship, but he's had a dose of running in France in recent years as well, 2021.
He's been actually situated here. He's running in the local championship in this car. So he's done the first couple of rounds in the local championship just to get some time on track.
And they have races here.
Yeah.
So that's local knowledge too.
Exactly. We had to go and explain the starting procedure to our local championship because we run touring cars and GTs together. So it's a rolling start, etc., etc. And obviously, with his experience, he whacked it on pole, as you would expect from Enrico Fulgenzi. But yeah, they've been doing a lot of research, a lot of track time here just to get all of his drivers, and been running different drivers in the championship as well. Well, you do that when you can't run, if your circuits over in Europe are covered in snow. What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Find an alternative, and they've done exactly that. Louis Perrault is in the Seb Lajou racing car, having just done a 202.5, but the best time in this session at 202.353 is from Cameron McLeod in the Arjit Kumar Racing by Baz Kooten Racing 901 Cup car. So the Fulgenzi Racing Porsche top, courtesy of the earlier time, the 202.8 in qualifying 1, a 202.7 in qualifying 2 so far, so that's great consistency.
Yes.
It's them a 202.8 when you combine the two.
Cameron McLeod out of Australia, running in the Super 2 Series in Australia. He did drive the Camaro in the Supercar Series at last year's Bathurst 24 Hours. Bathurst 1000, sorry. Yeah, loads of experience in V8s, throwing it at a rear-engine flat 6 and putting some respectable times in there. Very, very experienced Australian racer, Cameron McLeod.
Yeah, so, well, he was fastest. It's now Paul Meyer in the Seb Lajou racing car, 992. So there's a couple of Seb Lajou racing cars, both going well in this session. Louis Perrault was briefly top in qualifying 2. He's dropped to 4th now. McLeod 3rd fastest. Paul Meyer was fastest for a brief couple of seconds. Now Rick Breukers in the 909 car, which was late to join the session, is quickest, but there's some debris on the track with 7 minutes to go.
Turn 11, that is.
Okay.
They said it is. Turn 11.
Just being indicated to everybody. It's quite a bit offline, so
yeah.
I'm not anticipating a need to intervene.
That's been up on the board for quite a while, so I don't think intervention is warranted on that one with 6:40 to go on the clock in the second session.
To be honest, if you're that far wide,
you're in trouble anyway.
Scoop it up, precisely, yeah.
You're going shopping down the boulevard.
That is not going to be a quick line at all. So best avoided. Now a bit of rear steer from the 950 car. This is the one that's sort of imitating the livery from Group C days in the Silk Cup. And 950
Yeah, I was at the wheel of that one.
Okay. So this is Overhouse, who we were talking about, or rather the Mutrans were really waxing lyrical about his potential talent this weekend. So that rather suggests they're keeping Phil Keane back for qualifying 3.
Yeah, he had a bit. Yeah, Theo had a fairly busy. He was 3rd in the 60 Carrera Cup Deutschland, 1st in the Carrera Cup Middle East. So he's got a lot of experience around the circuit in 2024. Won that championship. 2nd in GT World Challenge Europe in 22. 3rd in DTM Trophy in 22. Loads of experience, but running Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East gives him a huge advantage here, because they have at least 2 of their rounds here spread over between Qatar, Bahrain, where they're hosted out of. The late great Walter Lechner started that series up and run by his 2 sons now. But a lot of the drivers from that series here this weekend, and it's currently running in the Middle East, the 24-25 season.
We always talk about this topic. I like to try and avoid it where possible. However, I did just note that the 950 car wasn't the correct side of the white line between turns 15 and 16, particularly in these qualifying sessions. Track limits probably we should talk about, and then forget about them for the race, because you get several warnings before potentially.
Yeah, you've got 3 warnings, and
that's in a race.
Yeah, in the race. This one here, you'll lose the laps.
Yeah, so your time just will not count if you're not in the right place on the circuit. That's why we may be getting some good times coming through initially, and then they disappear.
971 has had that one lap, turn 16, has had their lap deleted. So once they get done through the stewards, that is the Rabdan by Fulgenzi car, the local entry, UAE entry here.
We've had 1 2/3 of these qualifying sessions. There is only 1 car to date that has done a 201 point something, and that is the 909 of Rick Breukers, and he's done it so quickly that in fact he's parked it straight away. So very limited tyre wear in the session, full stop. I mean, how many laps did he do? The right column for that.
Yeah, yeah, 3 laps. He done 3 laps.
So it's an out lap, a quick lap, which was the 201.8. No one's got anywhere close to that.
Nowhere near it.
And back in again. And Rick Breukers is out of the car, and he's speaking to our man Joe Bradley.
Yeah, Rick just got out of the car. It's going to be Luke Breukers who takes the Red Camel car out the 909. Rick, outstanding lap, I've got to say. You've come in early. Is that to conserve the tyres a little bit for the next driver?
Yeah, we're just doing 1 lap to save the tires. As we see, the degradation is quite high, so we try to save the tires as much as possible for the last guy. It was quite difficult. It was my first time on new tires this whole week, and yeah, I think we did quite a good job. We have to be careful with the track limits, but for now it looks like we're safe. So
as a strategy, only allowing you 1 qualifying lap, knowing you as I do, you thrive on that challenge, I bet.
yeah, I mean, I like it, but in the end, my goal is just to finish as high as possible in the qualifying, and by doing 1 lap for each driver is biggest chance to achieving that result.
Right, it's a bit risky though. It's a bit like walking into a casino and putting it all on red. You can easily make a mistake, surely.
Yeah, but I mean, even if the lap is not that good, if you would go for another lap, then the next driver also suffers the degradation. So I think even going half a second slower, just doing 1 lap, is better than to do 5 laps, for example.
Yeah. Okay, Rick, I'll leave you to it. All down to Luke now, yeah. All down to Luke. His brother, Luke Breukers, sitting already in the car, waiting patiently and composed.
We had Fabian Dance, who's one of the 2 AMs in the entry, the other one being Rick's dad, Ivo, but Ivo not being utilised in qualifying. So Fabian onto Rick, who's easily the quickest of anybody so far, and Luke Breukers the responsibility of completing the set. And whilst we were listening to that interview, a few more cars came into pit road, leaving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 19 still circulating. But we've also, Phil, got news from the earlier session.
Yeah.
Because, well, we'd spotted 1 or 2 potential breaches of the strict regulations, and one of which was for the 111 numbered car, which is for 111 racing.
Yeah, indeed. They've been dropped 2 positions on the start grid for changing a driver during qualifying, which isn't allowed. Pete Mackay picked that one up, and as did John. So that has now been promulgated on the penalty decision lists at 16:30. So they'll take a 2-place drop on the GTX grid tomorrow.
Times within this session, Rick Breukers easily fastest. From Paul Meyer's Seb Lajou Cup car, number 992. Rick drives the 909 for Red Camel Jordans.nl. Then Arjit Kumar Racing by BKR is Cameron McLeod. He's also now pitted, but is second fastest in the 992 Pros. They're not called Pros, but they're the non-AM lineups, if you like. And 901 is third overall, from Louis Perrault in the second Seb Lajou racing car, and Theo Overhaus for dual racing by Uber. But as I say, that's the individual session. It's far more about what the averages look like, and because of Rick's 201.8, that's now brought the Red Camel Jordans.nl car to the top, and faster than the Fulgenci racing car of Enrico Fulgenci, who was just doing laps in the 917. He did a 202.7, so the 202.8 is not too shabby at all. But Red Camel currently sub 202.5. They've got a 499, which is 0.3 of a second better than anybody else's average to date. And Enrico Fulgenci, having also parked his 917 car, that car's about to be handed over to the 3rd and final driver, and Enrico is chatting to Joe.
Enrico, as ever, the 992 class is perhaps one of the most competitive, and this qualifying, again, is very, very close.
Yeah, very, very close as usual with the 992 class. And now this year is more exciting because we have these new Michelin tires, Michelin compound, and we did a very good preparation. So our aim driver in qualifying 1 did the best lap. Now we are, I think, in P2, and we are trying to get this pole position in the 24-hour of Dubai is something special.
For us, the fans, it's fantastic to have, you know, teams battling it out. Let me ask you about the Michelin tyre. How different is it this year to be on the Michelin?
We have much more performance in the very first lap. after this compound is very performing, so it's a little bit difficult to get the life of this compound arrive to the end. But if you adjust the setup and you do a good work with the engineers, and we hopefully did it, you can reach a very good average lap time, and you can reach the end of the stint easily.
I'm going to ask you that question, Enrico. Is it really important to be on pole position for a 24-hour race?
No, it's not important. It's just
The Italian in you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not important. Just matter of prestige. Yeah.
Well, good luck. You're on target. It's going to be a great session. Thank you, Enrico. Thank you for talking to us. Enrico Fulgenzi, guys.
It's also surely confidence boosting though as well, because you know you've got a car beneath you that is fast, and it is fast in different people's hands as well, regardless of your driving style or your ability to hustle the car around. The thing I've learned in the early stages about this new Michelin tyre, new to the championship, is that it takes a little bit to unlock the true potential. You've got to be brave and you've got to push in order to get the rewards from the performance it will give you in return.
Indeed. I'm just looking at another penalty that's come up, and it says 999. I'm just looking at, oh no, I can't find a 999. And I've got 992 is the last car on there. So yeah, that's we need to, maybe that's a test. But it says drop of 3 places at the start grid, so I'm not sure. I'll keep an eye on that one.
It's come up. We could hazard a guess, but there are so many numbers that are close to 999.
Well, if you just look, all of the 992 category cars start with the number 9, okay, except for the 888 Sub-Gilou Racing, and that's what they're doing. We're just getting that debris picked up by one of our safety vehicles down at turn 11. But I'll just keep an eye on that penalty, because 930 also got a track lap time disallowed. That's HRT Performance. That's one of their 3 cars here this weekend running in the AM category. It doesn't seem to have affected where they are, so it may have been getting out of somebody's way type, putting 4 wheels over the white line. So you have to have, for track limits, you have to have a piece of your car inside the white lines.
Yeah.
Okay. Preferably not on its roof, but inside the white lines as we get ready to go for our 3rd and final session, which will set the grid for the start of the 20th running of the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai tomorrow, starting at 1 p.m. and finishing at 1 p.m. on Sunday, funnily enough.
That's how 24-hour races work.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Generally, and yes, in my experience. Although, having said that, 2020 still close in my memory, even though it was only 5 years ago. Or it was, yeah, exactly 5 years ago.
Yes, it was.
We got to the 7th hour or the 8th hour, and is still to date the shortest ever distance. It was it not the same team that won that race that also won the longest distance race in 2012? It was a very similar lineup, at least, in that Lakemolen was part of those driving lineups.
Let me have a look. That was 2020, wasn't it? Yeah, Black Falcon. Yeah, it was Khaled Al-Kabasi, Ben Barker, Jeroen Bleekemolen, Hubert Hupt, and Manuel Metzger in the Black Falcon. Shortest distance record, 168 laps was completed.
Yep, but they still get the number 1 next to their name for that particular year.
Well, with the points in the Middle East Trophy, there are points separated for the race distance that is done. Obviously, we've got 2 races in the Middle East Trophy this year for the 25 season, and each of those races has a certain percentage that needs to be completed. Now, you have to compete in both. That is the difference between our previous Middle East Trophies, where we had the round in December in Kuwait for the last 2 years. It was 2 out of the 3. This one, you have to complete in both. And I have to say that looking at my entry list for the Abu Dhabi 6 hour, coming your way next weekend in the 992 class, pretty much all of them are going to Abu Dhabi next weekend. Yeah. Seriously, we have a lot of these 992 cars. Now, they may not have the same driver lineup. which is fine under Creventic. It goes off the car number. So a lot of the teams will have different drivers come in. Obviously, you can run that 6-hour race with 2 drivers, so you don't need everybody all at once. But that's looking at a 50-plus car grid so far.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
How many cars can you run around Abu Dhabi as a maximum? Any idea?
It's normally, I think the track limit is 95.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In regards to where the last cars are, when we have it here for rolling start.
Yes.
For standing start, because of where the start line is, like here, we've moved the start line down. There's a new start line further down the track. We had to do that for Formula 4 UAE because we had 42 cars. And so staggered grid, they were around the corner, so we had to bring everybody onto the start-finish straight. So our limit here is 100. Over the years, we've discussed between 65 and 75 seems to be the sweet spot. And given this year we've got so many quick cars out there, we're either going to have one or two things happen. It's absolutely going to be fantastic and we're going to do a distance record, or we're not.
And it might take a slightly different route.
Yes,
the checkered flag.
Indeed.
The race decides generally, or maybe the track decides how many cars it is comfortable to run at and for many, many hours over.
And given that we've got 4 classes that absolutely have got pretty similar speeds, we're talking about maybe 2 to 3 seconds in lap differential over 4 classes, over 40 plus cars.
Yeah.
It's lining up to be pretty good as session number 3. 12 and a half minutes to go in that. It's Luke Breukers out in the 909 in the red Camel Jordans.nl, currently leading the way. Sam Jongian from Fulgenzi Racing, he's their semi-pro. He is out there in the 917, the local entry. And then Matteo Jobert in the 888 from Seb Jaloux Racing out in their car. And Phil Keane, as we suggested, is out with the dual racing by Huber. It's great to have Christoph back here again, a big supporter of this series. I mean, he is known for his exploits in the Super Cup and Porsche Super Cup, and he was worked for the local series here in the Middle East, the Carrera Cup, Porsche Carrera Cup, for Walter Lechner before he started his own teams out, and boy, hasn't he been successful.
And then the other cars within the top 10, Arjit Kumar Racing by Baz Kooten. We've mentioned the 901 a few times. It's Mathieu Detry, the Belgian, at the wheel of that car. 5th fastest at the moment on the averages. Louis Perrault for the second Seb Jaloux Racing crew. Julian Hanses in the QMF by HRT 974. 7x7 Racing driven by Tsubasa Kondo for 989. GP Racing Team's Victor Bernier for the 3rd qualifying session. And to complete the top 10, it's Jerome Bullery in the TFT Racing car number 911, now on an out lap.
I'm just looking at Sector 1. Hub van Enjoven, the Tierra Outdoor by Racing by HWM, has just done the fastest time, but Seb Jaloux Racing's Louis Perrault has just taken that away from him as well. There is some quick times coming in this sector. This is they've got those tyres up to temperature now with 10 minutes 35 to go on this session, and the leaderboard is starting to juggle around a little bit, and that took the 912 from Tierra Outdoor Racing by HWM up into second position with an average of 203.671.
Well, this is a not necessarily a unique scenario, but a slightly strange one compared to a normal qualifying session that, for instance, Oep van Eindhoven or Sam Jongian might take part in. They've not been given brand new tyres. They're not too shabby, but they've got 2, shall we say, less than careful previous owners.
Yes.
So that first out lap is very much exploratory. They're trying to work out how much performance is still there to be unlocked, but bear in mind they've gone through different heat cycles. We've got 5 minutes downtime between each of the 15-minute sessions, although in the case of 909 Red Camel, for example, I mean, the car was only out on track for
3 laps,
six minutes probably, and then you've got the cooling off period. So again, these Michelin tyres all very new to,
and they don't know how they cycle. They don't know how they heat cycle and what to bring them back. And this is all for everybody's. And we've got a yellow flag. A car has gone around at the exit of turn number 9 and come back on. We'll try and pick that up. He's just on the back straight
Showing
now.
the 6 on the Lumi rank. So is that the 7x7?
That may,
car?
yeah.
Oh, wait, it's 6th in this session, though, potentially, isn't it, rather than 6th?
Let's have a look at that. We can see them circulating around on the exit of, so close to the barrier there. Wow.
Did it connect?
It doesn't look like it. I can still see very, very minor daylight there as the driver was getting that all back under control. It was the 989 that was...
Which is the 7x7
So,
race.
yes, it is. You were correct. The Japanese team.
Tsubasa Kondo with a massive escape, because I cannot see a graze on the nose of that
on the car.
So it's come within millimetres of the Armco barrier, which is on driver's left on the exit of turn 9. I mean, we have seen very similar moments such as that over the years.
We've seen big code 60s for that barrier being absolutely demolished.
Yes.
So that's working well. Good to see that they kept it all together. Japanese driver, one of the 2 full Japanese teams that are running here this weekend. I wonder if Bruce Jones has been talking to some of the Japanese teams while he's been over commentating in Japan. We'll ask him next weekend when he's back with us down at the Michelin 6 Hours of Abu Dhabi.
But Tsubasa, a regular in GT World Challenge Asia, but he's also had a couple of seasons in Super GT as well, in the GT300 category, which is GT3.
Yeah.
So well used to the odd GT3 car. Not sure how much Porsche Carrera Cup racing he's done, but a good escape. Knew probably what was going on well before the car did, and had to leap on the brakes.
It's a difficult place to lose, because normally you're very high up on the track, and I think he probably ran over the ripple strip and got onto the dirty stuff on the outside, which caused the back end, obviously with the engine behind the rear wheels, caused the Porsche to rotate. But those tyres won't be very good if he'd lock them up. That is the thing.
I mean, thankfully, there isn't another session after this. So, tyres are slightly less of a concern, although you want them to be good enough to produce a good lap time. Still, nobody getting close to the Rick Bruyker's effort, which is a 201.8. However, plenty of drivers close to the 202 marker, as in 4,000ths of a second away from it in the case of Mathis Jobert and Louis Perrault in this session. So it's the 2 Seb Lejeune Racing co-pilots that are very, very evenly matched. The 202.004 for car 888 and the 202.076 for Louis Perrault's 992 car. That will better their position in the overall for the average times. It's brought the Seb Lejeune Racing cars up to 2nd and 3rd, in fact.
Indeed, 978. Steens Longin has just had a lap deleted, running in 12th position at the moment. Aggregate time 204.678, running 6th in the AM, and that lap has gone. So they one more lap, and that's the problem with this. With 6 minutes to go, have you used the best of your tyres? Do you have enough time to do a cool down lap and then try and go again? 6 minutes, 3 laps, literally, for everyone.
Huub van Eindhoven still very fast as well, a 202.216. 4th fastest in the session is Julian Hanses for QMF by HRT in the 974. So the fastest cars in the session, 888, 992 second, 912 third, and 974 fourth. So their average times puts those cars 2nd, 3rd, 8th and 6th respectively. Luc Bruyker's only 5th in this session, but that's still enough to keep the car, the 909, in provisional pole.
Yeah, exactly, and with those quicker times coming in, and it was that 201.843 that really broke the back of everybody else, and with only 3 laps on those tyres, it's given Luke the best opportunity ever. You know, his last lap was a 202.526, his fastest lap, by the way, but that average is keeping them there. 202.508 versus 202.695. So it is, 1.6 seconds. Oh, sorry, 16/100ths between those 2 cars at the moment. And Matthieu Joubert is going quicker again. He's just set the fastest middle sector time to try and get that pole position back from Luke Bruyker's in the Red Camel Jordans.nl with 4:26 to go.
In one session, though, to find 2/10
It's-
when you've already found like half a second. Jobert to Breukers in this session alone, he's half a second quicker than him, but he's got to be 7/10 of a second quicker than it. Well, probably a bit more than that actually, because we're dealing in averages rather than absolute time.
Yeah, he's going to have to probably pull out probably 7-8 tenths in order to get that, and he's not going to do it on this lap with a sector 1 of 41.062. Maybe the Chevrolet Racing car. Remember, we've got Chevrolet Racing in 2nd and 3rd at the moment. A great result for that team if they stay there, but the times are now starting to drop off if we get with 3 minutes 40 to go.
Actually, Luke Breukers was able to find a bit of time on the previous circuit. He did a personal best through sector 1. Hasn't been able to repeat that, though, on his 5th lap of the session. Well, just completed 5 laps onto his 6th, which may turn out to be an in-lap, in fact. It doesn't look a great deal of time, just under 2/10 of a second, but actually, in order to try and eat away at that, because there's already 2 times in the bank, it's very difficult for Seb Lajou Racing to do that. And it's not their immediate concern, let's face it.
No.
Because they're in a field of 992 AM cars, remember, and there are well, there are 12 in total, so 10 other cars that they're looking to try and stay ahead of, and they are well ahead of that. So much so, Louis Perrault's pitted, Mathis Jobert's pitted. They're thinking, well,
they haven't got enough.
We're the fastest of the AM cars. Yes, we'd love to grab the headlines, but there's just not enough tyre life, and indeed perhaps not enough time left in this session to do that.
Yeah, Phil Keen on an in-lap as well in the 950, dual racing by Uber, 50.174 in the seconds area. I think he is just winding it down. Not enough left in those tyres with 2.5 minutes remaining. And we've also got the GP Racing Team, Victor Bernier, the 938 in the pits, 5th in AM at the moment. Steens Longing has come in after getting 2 laps deleted. He had 2 off-track excursions, and the laps have gone. He's in the pits. 990, Takit Bamba is in the pits running 9th in the AM category, 16th overall in the 992 category. So the pits are starting to open up. The 930 has just got, that's Holger Harmison in the HRT performance car, has just got 1 lap deleted for track infringements as well. So maybe the tyres have said enough and it's hard to keep them on the track.
I mean, total lap times were up to, in some cases, 19 laps.
Yeah.
So they've really taken quite a bit of punishment, and it's not as if you're looking after them as you might do in a race stint.
Yeah.
You're absolutely pounding them to try and get as much time as possible every single time you go around. I mean, maybe not on an out lap and an in lap, but otherwise, you know, these tyres are taking the most punishment that they probably will do all weekend, unless maybe you're in a final stint and you've got a showdown of two or three other cars looking to try and stay ahead of them. But these tyres have been deliberately designed by Michelin to be good across a race stint. We don't have a qualifying tyre as such. It's precisely the same compound that will be used for 24 hours from 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, down the bottom of the timesheets, the Mueller Motorsport, the 918, just done its fastest lap. Ben Bunagel at the wheel of that one, 907.54. That's his quickest lap. 207.863 for Jerome Da Costa in the HRT performance car. He did his quickest lap as well, and then a 207.513 for Sylvian Karoff in this the third of the HRT performance cars, the 929, 207.513. So I think some of those drivers are just getting time now. Yeah, seat time is everything in motorsport, and if you've done your quickest lap, you know the checkered flag's going to drop in 16 seconds time. You might as well stay out. There's no point in coming into the pits. If you're an AM driver and you're still learning stuff, you might as well stay out there. The other guys, well, they're coming in to preserve the car because they're looking at a class win.
And you want to kind of soak up the achievement that you've just managed to pull off.
Exactly.
Bearing in mind, track running here is relatively limited. We've already had a 90-minute free practice session. These qualifying sessions, of course, are used entirely to get your best grid position possible. There's effectively another free practice session to come later on, although it's labelled night practice and everyone must take part in that. That's the difference from a normal free practice session, to make sure that they're acclimatised to how the Dubai Autodrome appears.
Well, what you haven't seen, Johnny,
yes,
it's fully lit now. The circuit is fully
compared
lit.
to
Yes, not just this section here. It's
the whole place.
the whole place is fully
Now,
lit.
is that a change from last year or?
No,
change
we
from
had it
when I was-
last year as well.
Okay.
Okay, first year we had running, but fully lit all the way around the circuit. It's Kuwait level of lighting, not Yas level of lighting.
Oh, okay. Understood.
So, but it's fully lit now. So under camera at night, much easier to pick the cars up. The checkered flag has been thrown out there, and we'll wait till the cars come back into the pits and head down to Joe. At this time, it is the 909 leading the way, the Red Camel Jordans.NL. Luke Broikers at the wheel of that one. Average time, 2:02.508. And Matthias Jobert, Seb Jaloux Racing, 2:02.695. Louis Perot. Matthias Jobert leading the AM class. Louis Perot second in the AM class. So
Louis Perot is right in front of Joe. I'd be very interested to catch up with him, Joe, if you can. I'm not sure how good his English is,
Yeah,
but
got him now.
second fastest in that session, and it brought the Seb Jaloux Racing cars up to second and third in the average times.
Louis, very, very strong showing from Seb Jaloux Racing. Second and third for your team cars. That's a great effort.
Yeah, I'm very happy because it's my first time here. I drive on two car, so I drive the two car for the 24 hour. And yeah, the team do a mega job, my teammate too. So yeah, we are happy. We push for the race.
And of course, pole position in the AM class. So are you looking towards an overall victory or a class victory?
We will see. We will do our best, and we will see what we do.
So, your first time here at the Dubai Autodrome. What's your thoughts on the track?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Very, very technical. So I like track like this. So it's perfect for me.
Looking forward to the race, yes?
Sorry?
Looking forward to the race.
Yeah. So much. Yeah.
So are we. Thank you, Louis. Thank you
He's
for
been a
joining us.
regular in the last 3 years in Porsche Carrera Cup France, hailing from Avignon. And quite a long way into his racing career now, 28 years old, silver rated, but I think those two Frenchmen actually could be real stars come their stints in the race. Louis Perot in 992, number 992, and in the treble 8 car, Matthias Jobert, who actually topped qualifying 3. But Luc Broikers did enough to give the 909 car the pole position across the 3 different qualifying sessions. A chance to catch up then with the combined results from the 3 individual qualifying sessions. It's Red Camel Jordans.NL after Fabien Dance did the opening session, and then the 2 Broikers brothers, Rick ahead of Luke. Second and third overall, but first and second in 992 AM. The 2 Seb Jaloux Racing Porsche cars, then 888 and 992. Then dual racing by Uber, and completing the lineup in 950 was Phil Keane. Sam Yongayan in the 917 car. Fulgenci Racing was actually topping the pile after the first 2 sessions, but slipped down to 5th spot. Well, sorry, changed in qualifying 2. But 917 looking strong as far as the AM element is concerned. 974 is the QMF by HRT crew. They finished 6th after the 3 different sessions. Mathieu Detry for Arjit Kumar Racing muscled his 901 car into 7th position. Oop van Eindhoven was a big star in qualifying 3, 3rd in the individual session. That brings the 912 to 8th place, ahead of the TFT racing car with Benjamin Pack, the last in it, into the 911. And GP Racing Team's Victor Bernier completed his session in 10th place in 938. Then a further 19 cars to come. So 11th position for 989, the 7x7 racing car, despite the spin for Tsubasa Kondo, and a big escape actually for the Japanese not to do damage to the front of his car. Speed Lover from Belgium with Steinis Longeant in the 978, 12th fastest. Rabdan by Fulgenci, 971, 13th. Christopher Zürchling doing times in the final session. Simon Berg, always good to get back in the saddle after a big incident in another car. Actually, the 914 has had to be replaced, but Razzoon More Than Racing looks like they will take the start tomorrow. HRT Performance 930, 15th, ahead of Taku Bamba's JBR Porsche, another crew from Japan, 990, 16th. The 918 car for Mühlner Motorsport, again another Belgian outfit. Ben Boonagel doing the final times in that car, 17th, ahead of the 2 HRT Performance entries, 928 and 929. Will start from 18th and 19th positions in the 992 category. But it's still very, very difficult to pick precisely who's got the best combination of drivers and who's going to perform well across the piece, Phil Anser.
it's the teams have got such good lineups and such varied lineups with, you know, a great selection of drivers who can all from history, we know, put in amazing stints. You know, that sun coming up stint. You know, we see the race change so much when the sun gets up above the horizon about 6:30 in the morning. So it is really going to be, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to play out. And that is the brilliant thing about Creventic Racing and the 992 category. And let's have a look at some highlights from the qualifying sessions.
There was certainly plenty to talk about. I mean, your point about you don't know what's going to happen. We wouldn't run the race if we knew that.
Exactly.
That's why we keep coming back to find out which way this will go. But particularly in the 992 division, where everyone's got the same artillery,
yep.
It is entirely about some of the decisions made on the pit wall more than anything else.
Indeed, I totally agree with that. The people behind this, what we don't see is we see the drivers, but what we don't see is the teams of engineers back in their pit boxes working out what they're going to do, and that I think is the key to the 992 strategy. Talking with some of them down there earlier on with Raban Fulgenzi, you know, talking with the engineers, just amazing what they've got to try and put to go. You know, so it's going to be pretty interesting when we get to racing tomorrow at 1 p.m.
A wonderful scene as the sun just starts to drop a little bit behind some of the, to me, brand new skyscrapers that almost feels like they go up overnight. But the landscape continues to change here, and it's certainly going to be changing over the next 45 minutes of qualifying, because we've done the business now for TCE. 992 is decided, but this is the area where there's most variety, I suppose. There's some brand new cars. The BMW with the Evo pack is going to be making its debut into sports car racing here in Dubai for the 20th edition of the Michelin 24 Hours of Dubai. And yeah, the scene is set. It's becoming more and more dramatic around us as we get to the real important part of the day. Night practice to come a little later as well, but nothing like it was 20 years ago when it was, in certain areas around this track, pitch black. We'll have a change around in our Global Broadcast Centre as well, welcoming back to the broadcast Peter Mackay to talk all things GT3. I'm very envious.
A big field of GT3s, Johnny, yes, indeed, including one car. I mean, we're absolutely impartial here in the Global Broadcast Centre, but one car I must confess I'm quite excited to commentate on the first time, and that's the Bentley Continental GT3, a car that has... Well, it's a long, long time since it was originally launched and is very, very rarely seen in contemporary GT3 competition. But it's here. Team Parker Racing have brought it out, and it is resplendent in British racing green.
But
it's
there's no
wonderful.
reason why you can't do that.
No, it's homologated. You could take it and race it at Daytona if you wished, or even there wouldn't be anything regulation-wise to stop it from racing at Le Mans. It would require a few other bits and pieces in the background, but homologation-wise, it's still homologated as a GT3 car. And thank goodness.
We were having this discussion on the Shakedown General chat earlier on today. Hello from John Hindhoff, by the way, back in the booth. Thanks to Johnny Palmer and Phil Anson. And the beauty of GT3, of course, is that globally it is a balance of performance formula. And there is no reason why an older version of a car, or a car that hasn't raced for a few years, with a new with a BOP should not be competitive. And indeed, in places like Bathurst, we don't always have the brand new cars. The BMWs, for example, that are going down to Bathurst in a few weeks' time probably will not be the Evos. We've seen older versions of Lamborghinis racing there as they like to go green for another 15-minute session. And I don't think... I kind of don't want to see an old, elderly GT3 class. But there's no reason why we can't have older GT3s coming out and being compared.
Well, look at the Lexus in IMSA. It's a championship-winning car, and it's just as old as the Bentley is.
That's a good point.
So, you know, as long as the balance of performance is done right, then yes, it can be competitive. Great to see it here, and of course the plethora of machinery, and of course the very latest BMW making its debut here. So we're going full circle.
And Nick Damon for this part of the session. We'll get down to him. He is with the Munich brand.
I'm positioned between two of the new M4 GT. M4 GT3 Evos. Externally, it's like most facelifts for cars. It's a bit of an uplift on the lights, but obviously internally there's a huge amount of change being made. Mostly, as with all GT3 Evos, it's to make the car more serviceable and it's to make the car more flexible and easier to set up. A very strong team across the two BMWs. A couple of a couple of the young guns, Harper and Max Hess, Max Hess, of course, who was teammates of Valentino Rossi for most of last year, and both of them, of course, they're experts as the tyres have run out. And of course, the interesting thing is Darren Lung is in both the cars, but it's an amazing lineup of GT3, John, and most of them actually all concentrate towards pit out. So there's a kind of a very expensive echelon kind of a car park just pulling away bit by bit. There's Aston Martin is followed by a Porsche, is followed by a Mercedes, is followed by a BMW. Fantastic views here in the pits. I'm sure even better on the track.
Are there any of the older BMWs here, or is it just the two new ones from WRT?
I have not seen
an
old
just the two
one,
new ones,
which is annoying because I wanted to compare the old.
It's a different light signature. We were talking about this at the end of the IMSA season, and it's a different light signature. I think there's a slightly different mirror design. The bodywork looks a little bit different as well, but you'd have to put them side by side. But as Nick says, most of the Evos that are being done at the moment are for serviceability, reducing the amount of fastenings that need to be done. We had a lovely opportunity at Circuit Marco Simoncelli last year at the Creventic event there to look at two different versions of the Porsche GT3. The 911 GT3, there's a crash at the back straight. Big shunts, wheels off. This will be a red flag. Two cars that were racing together early on the outlap. That is ridiculous stuff going on there, and pitched into the left-hand side of the barrier. It's one of the Audis. It's the
Jobu Huang.
The number 99's involved, and that's got severe damage to the right rear.
That's Jobu Huang in the Attempto car.
Jobu Huang, yes, in the Attempto car. Thank you, Peter. The green and black car. There was another car involved, which I think was a Porsche. We were looking at that from the onboard, and the clock has been stopped. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I can see it. It's one of the few places where the barriers are slightly too high for me to be able to see that. The incident vehicles are already there. The additional lighting that Phil Hansen was talking about earlier already starting to come on. They have relatively low level. This is not Bahrain or Abu Dhabi or indeed even Daytona style lighting, but it's a little step up from street lighting, quite a big step up from street lighting, which is what we had at Kuwait Motor Town, which was fantastic. I really liked that. It had a real character of its own. Now, the first thing obviously is to work out how the driver is and the safest and easiest way to get him out of the car. The second thing is, have we got any damage to the barriers? So Joby Wong is out of the car and going to the rescue truck, and it looked like he walked there on his own, so that's good. The ambulance is already there, but I don't think it's been required. The right rear of the Attempto Motorsport Audi number 99, the R8 LMS. The final one was delivered, actually, just a week or so ago. What a success story that has been in customer racing. Right rear suspension's gone, all the rear bodywork's gone. I would hazard a guess that there will be If there isn't gearbox damage, I would be very surprised.
The engine's come out.
I think part of the engine's gone.
Yeah, that's a big accident. And just at the time when you really don't expect there to be one, the drivers were on their first out lap of the pits. Everyone's just getting themselves up to temperature, ready to go for that first qualifying lap, and then two cars collide on one of the fastest points in the circuit. It's a very long straight out of turn 9 into turn 10. So for Zhou Bihuang, that's a real pity. He's a really strong driver, actually performs very well in the Porsche Carrera Cup Asia. But that is one very damaged Audi.
Let's see if we can work out who else was involved here. We were on board, and it was an AMG.
Hoffer Mercedes.
Yeah, it was a Hoffer Mercedes, and there was a bit of back and forth, and didn't want to give up track position. And Zhou Bihuang zigs, whilst the Hoffer Mercedes zags, and then into the wall, and a masterful piece of avoidance from our camera car. That was extraordinary. Who was in the Hoffer car, Peter?
The number 11 Hoffer car, Alexander Prince, very experienced driver, and Alexander
so they were both
did well.
Trying to warm up their tyres, I think.
The way I would see that, I think that's on the Audi big time, because Alexander Prince is not deviating his line massively, and Zhou Bihuang's trying to warm his tyres up, and he just swipes straight into the side of the Mercedes, which is new itself, new to the team. It's a 2020 Evo car.
Our camera car, by the way, had to pick way through, and that was... I'm trying to work out which Porsche that was, actually, the dark red car.
It could be the car collection number 30.
Yes, because they've switched
hard to tell with a low light. So the Hofer number 11 car was the Mercedes that, driven by Alexander Prince, that just luckily actually managed to escape that incident relatively unscathed. I don't think the car will be completely unharmed. The team are working on it down in the pits at the moment,
so
but
big gouge.
There seems to be a great deal of panic going on in the Hofer garage. So red flag at the moment. Quite a bit of work for the Dubai Autodrome team to
There's a big gouge
jump into
in the arm core.
Yeah, and that has to be repaired.
It's not going to be the work
first.
of a moment.
So this might, while we've got a bit of time, we're talking about that new BMW, John, the GT3 Evo. The M4 has been a pretty successful car since it came in a couple of years ago, but the big change with it is to try and widen the setup window and to improve the tyre wear. So the development drivers, Jens Klingman, Augusto Farfus, Bruno Spengler, they've been working on it, trying to get the tyres. We'll come back to that in a second, as for our Envision viewers.
That was Matej Knetz in the car collection Porsche number 30, so good spot there, Peter. 4th, 5th gear, and I mean, on the first lap, actually, I'll take back what I said about there being a gouge in the arm core. There's a gap in the arm core there, and the Audi has hit the leading edge of that. There's already a gap in the arm core. So Zhou Bihuang into the Hoffer car, and then it absolutely nails the gap, which rips off actually the outside rear wheel, the right-hand rear wheel and bodywork and suspension, when you would have thought it would have been the left-hand side that would have had more damage, because that was the going in harder. There's some bodywork damage to the left rear guard, the fender, wheel arch of the Hoffer car. This is green and pink now, the Hoffer car. Nick Damon is there. Beautiful looking, the Chopard sponsored Hoffer Racing number 11, keeping their number, and with Alexander Prince in it. We've seen a couple of looks at this now, and I'm not sure he did anything wrong. They were both trying to maintain their position and warm up the tyres.
Yeah, I mean, he's got, as you can see, a very telling big circle of where he was. The rear wheel attacked the back of the Mercedes. Big gouges out, and you can see there's a bit of a blue coloration as well. They are quite worried about the rear left suspension. And I think they just checked. He obviously took a heavy clunk on that wheel, and they are, I think, just going to make sure that nothing is bent. And they're having a very close look, as hopefully those of you who have vision can see. There's a torch, unfortunately not an iPhone torch, and no sign of a hammer, so it isn't being knocked back into place. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's not what you wanted. It's going to go and knock a bit of confidence, even though, you know, is my left rear working? There is no performance limiting damage on the bodywork. So I mean, I've seen the replay as well, and I think Alexander was totally innocent on this. He was just going in a straight line, and the other car was overwarming his tyres and bouncing into him effectively.
Agree with that. The remnants of the Attempto Audi being brought back rather forlornly. Really good work, as ever, by the track services here at the Dubai Autodrome, who never cease to amaze me year on year at how quickly they can get things done. Despite the fact that that green and black number 99 car went into a gap there in the arm core, there is some damage to, I think, both sides of the arm core at either side of that gap. It is not a gap wide enough for a car. It's a pedestrian gap or something like that, I think. And in some ways you might say that was a bit unlucky in terms of the amount of damage, Peter, that's being caused. You know, we've been talking about people doing their tyre warm-up, weaving around left and right. On a track like this, do you not just do a slowish lap and then lean on it through the first few corners and try and get or do a bit of braking to get the heat from the discs? I don't think that was required, and quite clearly, I mean, no intent from Xiaobi Wang there at all in that car. He's sitting on the left-hand side of the car, so Alexander Prince, even when absolutely alongside him, it's not easy to see across to the right.
Ooh, with the Attempto car.
Not easy to see with all of the safety bits and pieces around the seat.
No, it isn't. The vision is a lot less than it would be in a normal street car. You have to bear that in mind. However, the driver has to bear that in mind when vigorously weaving across the track at a point where they're at 220, 210, 220 kilometers an hour on a fast lap. So that Audi, I think that chassis will be for the scrap heap.
Nick, just before we come down to you, there are a set of gates. It's a set of gates that Xiaobi Wang hit. I was wrong. It is wide enough to get a car through. It's a car access point, and he's wiped out at least half of those gates. I think there might have been sliding gates at one stage. And the other thing that the problem is he has exposed now the end of the 3-layer arm core. Nick Damon is with the Attempto car, and I can see that the gearbox is still there in part, at least.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember the Pete and Dud sketch about the one-legged man who wants to be Tarzan? And he said, your left leg, I've got nothing against your left leg, then again, neither of you. And it's the same thing. They've got the lovely the left-hand side of the car looks almost perfect. The right-hand side of the car is missing several very important parts, like a wheel, for example. They've ripped off that right rear corner. They've taken out, certainly they've taken off the fuel lines. They've done the exhaust. They've taken out the rear brace. All of this stuff, of course, bolts onto the core chassis of the
subframe's gone. I can see the subframe's gone, Nick, right in front of you.
Yeah, subframe's certainly got... Yeah, no, I'm just looking at it now. That's gone, that's bent. The gearbox. Who wants to see some gears?
Split open.
That's what a gearbox looks like inside the gearbox. There we are. You can see there's 3 or 4, 5 cogs exposed from one of the selector rings. So if you ever want to know what a gearbox looks like, you just need to come around here. But it's ripped off the side of the gearbox. It's been a massive impact. Obviously, the good thing is that the driver protection cell is completely untouched entirely.
Drive shaft's been pulled
but that
out.
car's not... Yeah, this particular car is not coming back in time for tomorrow. If they have a spare car, obviously then that
there
could be
are several
substituted.
teams that have spare cars with them. Possibly not Audis, but there are spare cars there. So,
well, rather imposingly, Peter Mac. If you just raise your camera up, Seb, you'll see the support truck for Audi Sport is positioned within about 10 yards. So if they've got a spare car in the back of that, then that's how far spares have to come.
Yeah, that is an ex Audi, isn't it? Gearbox casing. That it's not. So I don't think that is so much about the velocity of the impact as the angle and what he hit. Because what he hit there, Phil Hansen knows this track like the back of his hand. That's an access gate which is solid steel there and not Armco, so that wouldn't have dissipated the impact as much as the Armco did. And
maybe not. No.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, for this team as well. Just think what's going through their mind right now. I mean, last year they had a DNF, and here they are, right on the eve of the first race, big race of the season, and that car is totally toast. You know, the gearbox is obviously done. Engine, actually, surprisingly, is you maybe get some parts off it, but I don't know. And
but the fact that the rear subframe has gone. These cars are effectively a centre section and a survival cell, if you will, for the drivers, and everything else is hung on to that. And the Audi being a mid-engine car, you have a subframe at the front and you have a subframe at the back, and the subframe at the back has been torn asunder, and that is, I'm afraid, going to be a very lengthy repair. And the countdown starts right now. Are we going to have a fairy tale story? That car, it is now 22 minutes past 5, and we will have cars on the grid tomorrow at midday.
Yeah, that car will not be on the grid tomorrow. I'll be happy for that to come back and humiliate me tomorrow, but I'm pretty confident that car will not be back tomorrow. I may hopefully attempt to have some form of solution. There's a lot of steering going
Audi
on
Sport
at the
customer
moment.
racing representatives already looking at that car, but the rear crash structure has gone. The bar that goes across the back is now at a jaunty 30-degree angle. The right rear subframe and suspension mounting has been shredded, actually. Absolutely shredded. I mean, Nick was talking about the old Peter Cook and Dudley Moore sketch. That we have an Audi in Parc Fermé at the moment with a hole in the right-hand side. At the moment, Audi are looking into it, and that's exactly what they are doing.
Yeah, and they've got a good. I mean, they had such a good driver lineup as well for their class, you know, and they've got Lorenzo Patrese down to drive that car, son of Riccardo, a 6-time Formula 1 Grand Prix winner. But and they'll have had good track time over the last few days. But yeah, it's that is one wrecked Audi.
The worry will be now is, has any of the energy that has shredded that rear subframe been transmitted into the monocoque itself?
I would think so.
And that's what they'll be thinking.
If the monocoque isn't already damaged as it is, given the side impact that it was. Yeah, very, very difficult start to the weekend for attempt to, and this could be the start and the end of it all in one instant, sadly. And we don't have any lap times to give you either, because it was literally the out lap. It was the first lap for everyone.
Red flag came out with 12 minutes and 4 seconds to go, and no one had crossed. Actually, a few people had crossed the line, but they hadn't managed to finish a flying lap. So no one's got a flying lap. I'm looking at the cockpit now. That actually, the interior of the cockpit, where it would have transmitted the energy, that looks to be complete and looks to be have held its integrity very well. But that's what the guys from Audi will have to make that assessment.
What was interesting was the scrutineer taking a photograph of the roll cage there.
Yeah.
So there may be a dent or a bend in the roll cage, and at that point then it is toast.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes that can happen with smaller accidents than that. It could just be unlucky the way it happens. But it's all designed to protect the driver. That's the car we can replace. The driver you can't. And that's the thing. The modern GT3 car is. That's a fast, scary accident. It doesn't translate on television or how much we can describe it, how violent that is, but the driver can get up and walk out. That just shows you the work that the FIA do, that the manufacturers do to keep evolving, because as car speeds go up, the safety has to go on. So that's really, really important.
Right, let's again try and just pick the bones out of what happened. It's the first out lap, and Gilbert Grenier comes out of 9 and starts weaving immediately. He's on the racing line, he's off the racing line. Alexander Prince is on the right-hand side of the Audi in his AMG for Hoffa Racing, and there was a little weave originally coming out of 9 from Prince, but then he's pretty arrow straight, to be honest. They both came out of turn 9 and were trying to get some heat into the Michelin tyres. Prince goes to the left, and then the Audi actually weaves in front of him, and Prince goes to the right to go by him, but you're accelerating. I mean, that's fifth gear incident at that point. That'll be 160 no, maybe
200k an hour, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say 160 miles an hour. Yeah.
Well, on the brakes into the next corner, you're doing 255 kilometres an hour.
Yeah.
You're coming out of the previous corner at 110 kilometres an hour. So that gives you somewhere in between that. Having another look at the footage, I mean, it's clear that Joby Huang didn't see Alexander Prince there. He's not going to weave into him on purpose, is he? But I think Alexander Prince got a much faster exit out of turn 9 than Joby Huang did, and I don't think Joby Huang expected someone to be along beside him. But yeah, you have to be fully aware before you start weaving across the entirety of the track, surely. But a very unfortunate incident, and hopefully for Hoffa Racing, hopefully their newly acquired Mercedes AMG Evo 2020 is okay, because that's their first race with the car.
I think I'll be pulling that left rear suspension off that car just to make sure. They'll have a good look at it. Extraordinary scenes at the back of the Attempto Audi, with the gearbox having been split asunder, and the whole of the crash bar at the back is actually sitting in front of the car now, and that's a solid aluminium box section, and that's just been pulled off. The area that the rear wing struts are fastened onto, and that, of course, because that's producing downforce, that has to be fairly sturdy as well. That's been ripped apart, and we are at the moment waiting for an update in 3 minutes' time to see when we might be going back racing again.
A wee while. We nearly got through all the details of the new Evo BMW, nearly, but we were interrupted.
We can go back to that.
We could. We've got the time, haven't we? I mean, yeah, the main thing is the BMW factory drivers do develop the car. Jens Klugman, Gustav Farfus and Bruno Spengler, along with the engineers, their main target with that new BMW M4 GT3 Evo was to try and reduce the tyre and the brake wear. So it's got larger rear brakes, but improved chassis components as well for reduced tyre wear. It's got new front and rear anti-roll bars, and a much finer and easier to adjust differential, which again helps with reducing the tyre and the brake wear. They've also introduced a new weight-saving coating process where they cathodic dip the car rather than actually painting it, to try and save a little bit of weight here and there. Little changes to aerodynamics. So it's a lot of very small changes that hopefully for BMW will add up to a big improvement. And like we say, this is its very first competitive outing. There'll be 3 of them at Daytona at the end of the month for the 24 hours there. And price 578,000 of your finest euros, which is a lot of money, but it's actually very competitively priced compared to some other GT3s on the market.
Competitively priced.
Yes, exactly.
Hello.
BMW, four-time winner of this race. Porsche with a record of 6. So, but BMW have been strong in the past.
We're waiting for an update from race control, which should come in the next half minute or thereabouts. Now, what the track services team is doing is clearing up the debris now. There is significant barrier damage which will have to be attended to before we can go back to qualifying. The teams in the pit lane have been told they can take the wheels off and heat their tyres. But tyre heating is allowed in this championship, which is another reason why would you be weaving around so much maybe at the front of at the start of that lap.
The reason why they're clarifying that is because once the qualifying stage has begun, once the qualifying session has begun, you cannot take the tyres off and you cannot put them into the warmers in between the sessions. But because we've been sat for so long, all of the heat that was in the tyres has gone, so it's effectively resetting as a 12-minute and 4-second qualifying session. We've got an update for you, 10 minutes until our next update, really, until we will know if we're going to be resuming or not. There's a huge amount of work to do, because it's not just the barrier repair, which is the main thing, but there'll be all sorts of fluids all over the surface, and we've got to make sure the surface is absolutely safe to go back racing on.
What we're also doing at the same time is having a bit of a sweep of that long back straight. We've had a bit of running today for free practice, and we've had 2 full 45-minute sessions of qualifying. So what's that, an hour and a half? But offline, there's quite a lot of marbles there, actually, for what we're seeing. Track temperature is not particularly high. It's been sunny today, very pleasant, by no means too hot for those of you, particularly in Europe and the UK, where the temperature is hanging on around about 0 or below Celsius. Very pleasant here. It's a t-shirt and shorts or light trousers. Nick Damon is in the pit lane and is overseeing what at the moment?
Well, I just thought, we've had all the bad news, and we perhaps just use the normal downtime of red flag to chat to some people, if that's all right with you. Let's start with a man he's a champion, and also, most of us are responsible for some part for his motor racing career. So Jake Hill. Jake, it's great to see you doing proper racing, where you're not supposed to be hitting each other, though they just have, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a bit eventful start there to the AM quali, but no, fantastic to be here at the 24 Hours of Dubai. It's going to be my first international GT race, and in the fantastic 296 here, run by Aero Motorsport, so really looking forward to it.
Now, obviously, all us Brits know you are the British Touring Car Champion. Congratulations on that. But is this where you see your career going? Do you see yourself moving out of the British Championship and trying to get into GT3, international sports car racing?
Well, I've always had a big aspiration to do sports cars and to do Le Mans and WEC and all that sort of stuff eventually. So who knows, but Creventic's a great way to start my GT career, and I'm able to do this alongside my British Touring Car campaign, where I'm going to go back and try and defend my title again. So yeah, looking forward to both series really. But yeah, for sure, it's something I'm eyeing up, and who knows what will happen in the future.
Now, we have seen you in sports cars, but they've been from the 60s and the 70s. So how does a car that's 50 years newer but a sports car, how does that compare?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Ferrari's an amazing bit of kit. All the cars are, the GT3 cars now are full of technology, extremely fast, extremely safe, as we've just seen as well. So, yeah, they're a fantastic bit of kit, and yes, I love my historic cars, but these are pretty special to drive.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned obviously you're looking to move into GT sports car racing. You do have a silver grading, which must make you very attractive. Well, when I read that, I thought, how can the British Touring Car Champion be a silver grading? But that must make me very attractive to teams who are looking for those quick silvers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not known in the GT world, I mean, touring car racing is touring car racing. It's very different to GTs, and especially the likes of GT3 stuff. So I'm guessing that's why I've managed to stay a silver. But yeah, I'd like to think it makes me attractive to all the other teams out there. But I've been thrown a great opportunity here with Kyle and Dwight of Aero Motorsport, and going to maximise it and enjoy this year.
Yeah, obviously we know Aero Motorsport here on Radio Le Mans very well through IMSA Radio and the work they do with Ryan. How did this come together? How come you? Because I saw Aero Motorsport fun. So you all know how's that happened then?
Well, I've been racing a couple of cars with Kyle with Historic, so done Goodwood a couple of times, raced a couple of his cars, driven some Shadow Can-Am cars with him that they run back in the UK. And then, there was an opportunity that was starting to arise where Dwight didn't want to do LMP2 stuff anymore. He wanted to do some more European GT racing. And the GT3 seemed like a really good fit. So this is just the start of hopefully something that will become bigger and better. And yeah, Carl asked me very kindly if I'd come and join his crew to, to drive this car. So yeah, I bit his hand off.
Now, obviously, we've talked about British touring cars, we've talked about GT3, but the most important thing of all is how's the RC car racing going?
Yeah, still loving the RC car racing. I know you're doing a lot of commentary for it still, and yeah, I love it. I'm a big kid at heart, so love all the toys, and those RC race cars are a proper bit of kit. So yeah, still love keeping my hand in with that.
The worrying thing is, I know that John and I both still think you're that 15-year-old or 14-year-old we first met, and we find out you're a British champion, you've got you've got a personal. No, that can't happen. He's 14 still. I mean, it is amazing, isn't it, how your career's kind of developed? I mean, you must be you kind of pinch yourself when you won the championship. Yeah,
extremely proud. I mean, we've we worked extremely hard, me and my dad Simon, to get to where we've got, and to be British champions at such a prestige championship like the British Touring Cars. It just means the world to us. All the effort we've put in, it's finally paid off, and here we are in January, away from the snow and ice of the UK, and having a fantastic time driving this car. So it's definitely a pinch myself moment.
So once qualifying gets underway, hopefully, are you going out second, first or third?
Yeah, second. I'm the semi-pro, so Ryan will go out last, who's the pro. So yeah, I'm going to jump in the car second, and Ryan will finish off in third. Right now we've got Dwight in the car, so yeah, obviously once this hold-up gets over, we can get cracking.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, brilliant. Such an enthusiast for motorsport, Jake Hill, current British Touring Car Championship champion, has worked very, very hard indeed for that in a championship that is exceptionally competitive, of course, and well deserved for both him and his dad Simon. Simon, a former co-commentator of mine when we used to do all the supports on ITV and Motors TV and Setanta before that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, well,
that's very interesting.
When Ben Edwards kindly put my name forward to go and do the support series on the British Touring Car Championship, which at the time I think was things like Formula BMW, Formula Renault, and subsequently various other bits and pieces as well, a Porsche Carrera Cup, GB. Simon was my wingman. And,
very cool.
We had one weekend. Tim Harvey, obviously, well known for being alongside Ben Edwards in the commentary box. What a lineup that was! And there was one weekend at Brands Hatch, actually, where poor Ben Edwards was the only one of the four commentators who wasn't racing that weekend. Simon did the Formula Renault BARC series, which was just a slightly detuned version, exactly the same car, of the Formula Renaults that were on the Talker package, and they had another race, like a guest race. Tim was doing Porsches, and I did a classic touring car race in an RS31 Capri, which is where I raced. I'm pretty sure that weekend, or might have been another weekend at Brands, but that I think I raced. No, I didn't race. I was on the track at the same time as Andy Rice, one of my all-time heroes. He was in a Camaro.
As long as you got the time sheet, the result sheet.
What's there?
Put it up, frame it, and put it up in certain rooms in the house. No, isn't it brilliant to have Era Motorsport in Creventic?
Oh, that's
I mean, they're brilliant. They've won the Rolex 24-hour at Daytona twice in the last 4 years. And it's great to see them here. And I had the same thought as Nick did when I looked on the FIA driver ranking and saw that Jake Hill was still a silver graded driver. That makes him an incredibly hot property. Why is that? What you're thinking? What's an FIA driver ranking? Well, someone of Jake's standard, a national champion in a very competitive series, would normally be a gold grade, but because he's a silver grade, he can fit into seats pretty well. Now, it might be, like many drivers, it won't be like that for long, I don't think.
Well,
I don't think that's speaking out.
The thing about Jake is that he has grown up around the sport, and he has driven a lot of classic cars and some pretty hairy ones, as you heard. If you've driven a Can-Am car, that is seat the pants driving. So, he's got to learn GT3 driving, he's got to learn a new series, he's got to learn the Ferrari, but it will be a lot more user-friendly than that Can-Am car.
Massively.
It's like Gunnar Jeanette for a long time the youngest driver at Le Mans. His first race was in a 935.
Gunnar is not of this planet, though. In
No,
any way.
he's an alien.
He's a wonderful guy,
Yeah.
but he is. I remember listening to an interview with him. He says, "What's the Porsche that you haven't driven? What's the one that you know? What have you driven?" He goes, "It's better for me to answer tell you what I haven't driven." He says, "I haven't driven a 917 turbo Can-Am car. Gunnar hasn't,
right?
Or the 909 Berg Spider." He says, "I've driven pretty much everything else."
Yeah. Absolutely. And driven it
like,
competitively.
wow.
And driven it competitively as well. Nick Damon, whilst we're reminiscing about Simon and I in the booth, the very first Formula BMW race in the UK was stopped at the end of the first lap because somebody went up on their heads at Druids at Brands Hatch, talking about Brands Hatch, and you saved our bacon by going out onto the grid and basically starting at the back of the grid and interviewing everybody. You've clicked into that mode again. Where are you?
Well, you know, talking about reading entry lists, I got a little frisson of excitement when I saw one of my favourite teams from yesterday or yesteryear has joined us again. So, Scuderia Praha and Joseph Kerr, welcome back home, Joseph. Where have you been? What have you done?
Well, a bit far away from a 24-hour series, unfortunately, but we still kept busy as a team in a different series. Unfortunately, not with the GT3 car. So luckily now we are back and we are happy, very happy to be back.
So how come this is the day? How come you're now back with us, hopefully forever?
Yes, well, definitely. We hope to be here forever. And we started here, first race with a new car, Ferrari 296 GT3. So it's first race ever for us. So we're in a pretty steep learning curve. So hopefully we finish the race. That's the main goal. But then we have Abu Dhabi, and we also plan to do the European part, which is great. So it's nice to be back home, as you said.
Now, obviously, you are Scuderia Praha, but the team mates you with a few years ago, they're not with you. Talk us about the guys who you're driving with this weekend.
Well, we have different drivers, because there is Denis Vasek racing with me as a kind of a pro driver, let's say, and then Miro and Matusz Wiboch, they join me in the car, and they did some races with us in the past. They raced in Ferrari Challenge, then they moved to 24-hour series. We did 3 races in the past as well together, so they have some kind of little bit of experience with the endurance racing. So now it's first 24-hour race for them, which will be definitely challenging. As you can see already now, it's not easy. So yeah, we just, as I said, hope to finish the race and collect as much experience as possible.
What is the preparation when you take a driver who's done, say, Ferrari Challenge or some shorter race, and now they've got to face their first 24-hour races? What do you obviously know a lot about it, your team knows a lot about it. What are you telling the drivers?
Well, mostly it's a mental preparation. First of all, you need to physically make it, but I would say that's easier than the mental preparation, because, you know, the body can last everything. So I was really trying to explain them how to prepare mentally, that first of all, the main goal is to finish, not to be the fastest in the first corner or to be the quickest overall all the time, because it's impossible. In these long races, of course, you push as much as you can, but still you have to think about that it's 24-hour race, not one hour race, which is the biggest difference. And of course, after some hours, you feel that you are getting tired, and the things are getting, I would say, even more difficult, and in the 9 especially. So these are things which you can't really prepare for, that you need to have the experience. That's the biggest preparation for the rest of the season, let's say. So yeah, I just hope that we finish the race, they collect the experience, and then the next and future races will be even more successful.
I think we've got about 7 minutes to green flags. And I'll ask you one more question. Obviously, you said you are stalwart of this series. You've been in a number of Dubai 24 hours, but the nature of the race has changed quite a lot in the last 3 or 4 years. I remember when we were doing it 7 or 8 years ago, there were 101 cars, there were Renault Clios. Now it's a much more condensed, fast field of fast cars. How has that changed how you perceive the race as a driver?
Well, I'm enjoying it a lot because, you know, now you know what to basically expect, because you are coming to the field which is similar to other racing series, which is great, you know, because you can measure yourself against other well-known team, which is important also from kind of, you know, understanding where you are and what you want to do. So from this point of view, it's very nice, and you can really keep the rhythm and know that in the other cars there are fast drivers as well. But anyway, what I still like about 24-hour series is that here is still the understanding that there might be the gentleman, or that there might be someone who is not so experienced. So still this kind of how to say, you know, living together is really nice, and it's not like just the pure edge and pushing over the limit.
It's really great to see you here again. Have a great qualifying, and I'm sure I'll speak to you on the grid.
Thank you.
Brilliant stuff from Nick Damon down there with Scuderia Praha, and Josef Kral been with that team for such a long time.
And he's a serious peddler.
Oh, he's very good.
Multiple race winner in GP2. You know, the year he was in GP2, he beat Max Chilton, James Collado, Felipe Nasr, Brendan Hartley. These are all platinum factory drivers. So he's a serious player. He's won the Portimao 24 Hours 3 times.
Yeah.
So he's a real peddler.
At RSL_studio, sound and vision at radio-show.co.uk on the 24 hour, the Creventic Motorsport channel on YouTube now, and around the world at RS1 as well in audio if you're travelling around listening to us at the moment. Hello to, well, what is it? It's just coming up to 2 o'clock, 1:45 in the UK at the moment. Matt Hunter from our Simcast radio podcast, and our weekly look at the world of virtual racing restarted last night, and what a cracking episode it was. Thank you, Matt, for coming back to us again this year. Who doesn't love some sports cars on a Friday afternoon? I'm tuning in through at my lunch break, honest. Yeah.
Working from home. A classic Friday afternoon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, wherever you're tuning in from, let us know. It's at RSL_studio. The darkness beginning to gather, and just a little bit of either dust or fog in the air. It's never really 100% cleared up. Since this morning, I was up quite early this morning and watched the sun come up, and it really was a spectacular sunrise because of the fog in the air. And we've got that situation again now whereby there's just a little bit of, it's almost as if someone has blurred the background on a photograph as we look out towards the coast, which, 14 years ago when we first came here, we could see right to the Burj Al Arab and the coastline there. You can, in fact, I can't pick out the Burj Al Arab now from where we are.
It's a little bit too misty, isn't it, to be able to see that? But an interesting note there from Race Control. They have given the teams the option to fit another set of tyres
I think that's
if
smart.
they wish.
I think that's smart.
Because there was all sorts of muck and dirt all over the track. So they don't have to, but they've got that option if they want to do all of the teams. The engines are being fired up and down the pit lane.
That's good.
Over 30 cars, GT3 cars there, and we're being confirmation in 2.5 minutes. The pit lane will be open.
Darren Young with Ahmed Al Hati, Toby Sowery in the
Paradigm competition.
That is a very competitive look to that car. Hello to Blur Fiend, our resident Porsche expert. Happy New Year to you in the Porsche workshop in Orlando. Tuned in now. Look, they sent us a picture. He's actually got it on his works. That was a couple of seconds ago. Working there. Thank you for the recommendations for upgrading the headlights on Eve's 981 as well, Blur. And Rennie de Boers. We cannot be at this race without thinking about René de Boer, who's in Germany watching and listening at the moment. René was an absolute staple of the first half a dozen years and more of this race, who, before we started streaming it in audio to start with, he was one of the voices, along with Phil Anson, and a number of others as well. Alex Capper-Murdoch, who worked with us at Rockingham, actually. Rockingham Motor Speedway in the UK, all doing the PA coverage. And René de Boer was always the expert that did the podium celebrations in not just the early years, actually went well through into even our tenure there. René, we wish you a good 2025 and best to all of you and the family. And as I say, we can't come to this place without thinking about lovely René de Boer, who is tuned in at the moment. At RSL_studio, we are only moments away from restarting this session. 12 minutes and 4 seconds on the clock. This is going to take us into a little more darkness than we had expected. Also, it's going to mean the Renault Clios are going to be running in more darkness than they were expecting, because their first race coming up in a little while. It'll be Joe Bradley and Phil Anson to take you through that. Johnny Palmer's panicking because is this going to overrun into his dinner break? Well, you see. Are you off now for dinner?
I hope all the banana bread isn't gone. It was very good.
You gave the banana bread good.
Yeah, I feel like I'm out on an island on that, though. There wasn't the echo of, oh, I like banana bread. It was all banana bread.
Problem is, if you've had bad banana bread, you're not going back to it. We are going green. So we are under a dozen minutes now, and the headlights are coming into play. These highly efficient LED headlamp units being switched on, and the race director in fact informing all of the cars that it's officially dark now. So we will be going into the cars needing headlights, and time to re-assimilate and acquaint ourselves with this circuit in a, well, is this the gloaming? Certainly the eventide, but the circuit hasn't moved. A very good bit of advice that I was given once about driving in the dark. The circuit doesn't move. Even when you come around lap after lap, it's in the same place. Blind entrance to a corner. The apex is over the top of a hill. Honestly, it's not moved since the last time. Actually, Chris Walker, who Nick was talking about a little while ago, who runs a Ducati dealership not too far from where Nick has moved up to now in Lincolnshire. Chris Walker, on my very first ever track day on 2 or 4 wheels, was actually at Chris Walker, who was making his way then. He was my instructor, and we were at the mountain over in that area on Yamahas, I think it was, and I was being a bit cautious, and Chris said, don't worry, the corner hasn't moved since the last time you were there. And that was in bright sunshine. And it is exactly the same in the darkness. You've just got to believe it. In some ways, and I've said this before, I actually prefer driving in the dark. I find there's less distractions, because you are focusing way down the track, as you should always be, of course. You get far more inkling of somebody coming up behind you because you see the headlights, and therefore it's in some ways a more pure way to drive. And that's why I've always, when I've had the opportunity, when I've been asked to race on that odd occasion, my hand's always up straight away. When, oh, who wants to do the darkness bit then? You want to do a bit of I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. So, already down to 9.5 minutes, and we don't have a competitive time on the board here. Fabrizio Broggi for Manamari Energy by EB Motors, the Porsche number 1, has gone through to start a lap, as 1 or 2 others have, but this intense 31 car field, we had 30, I think we had 33 Porsches, 31 GTs.
The number 30 car collection Porsche, which very kindly went as our camera car to catch the footage of that incident between the attempt to Audi and the 11-Hofer Mercedes. We saw a wheel come off and the tyre bouncing across the road. There is a kind of tyre donut across the left-hand side of that number 30 car collection Porsche. So it's actually hit the driver's door on the way through. Must have given the driver a bit of a fright.
That's Matej Knetz in that number 30 half and half. White down the left-hand side, red down the right-hand side. Red on the front, white on the back, but it does have coloured lights down the side. As my much missed father would say, it's not pretty, but it confuses the witnesses.
He also said he didn't believe in coincidences.
He was absolutely right there.
Very true.
Bear in mind, my whole life that I was alive whilst he was working. He was a police officer, so you can imagine that he had a nose. There's no point in me trying to hide anything when I was growing up. He would smell a lie from 200 yards before I'd even opened my mouth.
I was going to ask you, how did you hide?
That was awful.
You pranked your car.
That was awful.
What did you do?
Absolutely, to the point where one time I borrowed his car while he was away on holiday and did some damage and had the damage fixed by a good friend of ours. And there was no way he could have known. But I fessed up as soon as he came through the door from his holiday because I just, you know, I cracked under pressure.
His mere presence was enough. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, unsurprisingly, Ralph Bowen starting off his competitive 2025 season as he finished his 2024 season at the top. Yeah. You know, winning the Barcelona 24-hour. He's just set the fastest lap time of the first flying laps, 1:59.3, and Alexander Prince a 1:59.5. So that Mercedes looks to be okay after that incident.
Those are the first sub 2-minute laps that we've seen in official competition here this week.
Yes.
We didn't see any sub 2 minutes in the practice session earlier on, did we?
Zachary Robichon yesterday was the quickest in the testing with 1:58.314.
Right, so there's a bit of time to come yet. And the good news is, of course, all right, 45 minutes worth of fuel, so that's almost a full tank. But it is cooling down very, very quickly here. And the air temperature will cool down. There'll still be just enough temp in the track, I would have thought. It was 41 degrees earlier on when we came on the air at 2:15, now sitting at 5 minutes before 6 in the evening, and this is giving us a very good illustration, PMAC, of what we're going to see tomorrow as we're heading into the darkness. We'll have started at 1 o'clock, so you're talking about 5 hours of daylight running, and that's all before you get to this, because at this time of the year here, it's not so much as the light fading, it's like someone switching off a light switch.
Yeah, it's a great experience for the drivers, and well, this brand new BMW M4 GT3 Evo straight to the top of the timesheets in the hands of Ahmad Al Harti. Car 991 for Paradigm Competition, a 1:58.845. So really, really quick times.
And in second position, Alexandra Malikin for Pure Racing. FIA WEC champions, Pure Racing, of course, in the Porsche number 92. So I'm getting sort of the right vibes from that car. Florian Spengler in third for Herbeth Motorsport. That's another Porsche, the 269 car. That's not a normal number for Herbeth Motorsport. Rinat Salikiov is in Winward Racing. That Winward had 2 cars at the test here in December, and they were first and second. There was about 15 or 16 cars took part in those sessions over 2 days. First chance that they'd had to bolt on the Michelins and try here. And the Winward cars were first and second at the end of the 2 days. Then Ralph Bowen for Herbeth in the more traditionally numbered number 91 Herbeth Porsche, and the Dynamic GT Thomas Kiefer in the 24 car. Then another Porsche for Herbeth. That's 3 Herbeth cars in the top 7 with Jonathan Hull in the number 80 car. So BMW, Porsche, Mercedes, Porsche, Mercedes, Alexander Prince for Hofer Racing. In 8th now, Dante Rapang for Come To You Racing and the best of the Aston Martins. The best of the Aston Martins. Munkong Sathin Thirakul is in the EBM car. Porsche Carrera Cup Asia driver. His brother's with him as well. I think it's I meant to ask Johnny about this. Which is the older of the Sathin Thirakul brothers? Is it Munkong or
Tanart. It's the older is Munkong by 7 years.
Oh, is it? Right.
Munkong is 39 and Tanart is 32.
No need for us to be here, JP. Really, that's it. We're a dying breed now, mate. You realise that.
In the meantime, number 24, Dynamic Porsche to the top. Thomas Kiefer, 1:58.807. It's super tight though at the top, just 0.04 of a second in it. But you look up and down the field, there's so many World Endurance Championship drivers here. Ahmad Al Harti, Alexander Malekin, Darren Lung. Plenty of drivers who could be. Hubert Haupt, a 3-time winner of this race overall. If he wins this weekend, he'll go ahead as the all-time best driver at this race. Likewise would Jeroen Blekemolen, who's also won it on 3 occasions. So quite fittingly, it's the Visit Dubai car that sits on provisional, very much provisional pole at the moment. It's a beautiful machine, white on the top with the blue, a blue-coloured skyline and the cityscape on the bottom half of the car. It's a really, really nice livery. Great job.
Huge amount of inward investment into this area of the United Arab Emirates at the moment. It's very reminiscent of when we first came here. My first trip out here was 2007 with the Le Mans winning Aston Martin GT1, as it was in those days. Brought that to this track here. Did some pit stop practices outside some of the partner hotels of the IHG group, both over at Festival City, which was just opening, and down at Abu Dhabi. And that was a time of great expansion. It is as naught as what has happened in the last few years, to be honest. It has really moved along. And once again, as we were coming into the track this morning, the crane count was abandoned very quickly.
It's not quite like playing Eddie Stobart truck spotting, where you know you got one every maybe couple of miles, and it makes a game of it. No, it becomes silly. So a lot of drivers coming into the pits now trying to keep the tyres in good condition, because we've got an aggregate time of 3 qualifying sessions, 3 15-minute qualifying sessions, 3 different drivers, but on the same set of tyres. That's very important. So you don't want to put too many tyres. You want to do that quick lap, put it in, and get it back to the pits.
Our artist in residence at Radio Show Limited, Neil Gardner, NG, tuned in. He's been super busy this week.
What track is that?
That is WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah, and he is doodling away. He calls it doodling. Anyone else would call it just genius art. A piece within the outline of the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca circuit that is commemorating and indeed honouring the first race for the AO Porsche Rexy. That's his piece that he's working with at the moment. He's tuned into us. A bit of a shake of the head there from
Scuderia Praha.
Yeah, who was there first?
Matches Vibo.
Right.
There.
I think they say, don't they?
Oh.
Shibok rather than Cyborg. Shibok for the Cyborg guys, yeah. I think it is, because it used to be the team name as well, didn't it? At one stage.
A tricky one. Amazing motor racing culture in Czech Republic. Scuderia Praha, but then the rallying scene in Czech Republic, the local drivers there are so good, particularly on rough, bumpy tarmac.
It is now dark.
How good do racing cars look under lights as well?
And
for
sound.
those that have the benefit and sound, yeah, the benefit.
So that is 5 minutes from us seeing the light is fading to it being dark, and now we can see the benefit of having lights around the circuit on the infield as well. And there's a lot more to do on the infield. If you're within striking distance of us here at Dubai Autodrome, please do come and see us over the weekend. There's more infield spectator areas than ever. The Apex viewing area has been improved, and there's some food trucks over there. There's a very shiny pizza truck that I saw being brought in earlier on today. The podium ceremonies will be there as well on Sunday afternoon, and there's a variety of activities for young and old. So at the moment, it's Thomas Kiefer, the Dynamic GT Porsche, with a 158.8. Also on 158.8, Alexander Bukhansov for Haas RT, the Caribbean team running the Audi. Ahmed El Hati for Paradigm BMW in third, also on a 158.8. My goodness me, that is tight. 158.807, 158.823, 158.845, 158.873, 158.963 for Herbert behind Pure Racing. The top 5 separated by just on half a tenth, sorry, a 0.01 of a second.
This is meant to be the session where the times are spread out. What's it going to be like when we start chucking the real hot shoes in there?
Well, but doesn't that tell you something that we've been saying for a long time? In any GT category, or indeed any category that is Pro-Am, the AMs make the difference.
They do.
And the quality of AM racing, non-pro driver racing, has gone through the roof in the last 4 or 5 years.
And look how many drivers, professional drivers, who are supplementing their driving duties with coaching. The standard of coaching has gone up. The telemetry, the onboards, everything, the way that drivers can be coached is definitely improved too. And also the drivability of the cars and how they allow, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not easy to drive, but they are a little bit more user-friendly. As Nick Damon's already down there in the Dynamic GT garage to speak to Thomas Kiefer, who should be very, very pleased with his early evenings work, and the raw carbon RI helmet with Porsche strip across.
That looks fabulous.
Mega.
And he's got a tinted visor on because he wouldn't have expected to be driving in the dark. Hello to Max UK 2009. Freezing in Brighouse. Send us a bit of sun. Working from home, exclamation mark. Very good. Great to have the season back again. Let's slip down to Nick Damon. Checkered flag is out. The best of the GT3s is a full GT3 car. Thomas Kiefer from an AM car, that's the Haas RT. And the best Pro-Am car is Rinat Salikiov for Winward Racing down in 6th place.
Thomas Kiefer's fresh out of the Visit Dubai. We didn't just visit Dubai, we're the fastest person around the Dubai circuit. I mean, you must be, you know, it's very close, but you must be chuffed.
Yeah, let's say I'm for sure happy after hearing the result. I had some radio issues, so I was not really sure what to expect because the BMW ahead of me was also really fast. But he went into the pit, so then I was more or less on my own. But yeah, for sure. First of all, I actually hope that the driver in the Audi is okay. I have no news yet because I was straight back in the car. But yeah, that's the most important thing. And then I think it was a bit of a gamble for all of us. Yeah, nobody knows how the car is handling in that kind of conditions during that time. But somehow we had it in a good window, and I was quite comfortable. So I tried to push as much as possible, and seems like it was not so bad.
And is the track in? Is it all clear and in clean condition after the accident earlier?
Yeah, there's a little bit of some fluid you can still see on the straight, but it's everything else is clean. No debris or something like that.
Thomas, congratulations, thanks very much. Now, one of the things you wouldn't have seen is when Thomas came out, he took out 2 of the biggest seat inserts I've ever seen. That's because Thomas is a normal height, but Luke Hartog, who's 14'3", is getting into the car, and it's like it really does show the flexibility of a GT3 Porsche. They can fit both these drivers in, John.
Luke Hartog, the
Dutchman.
Yeah, I was going to say Porsche specialist in some respects, because of course he is the Porsche Carrera Cup North America champion. We've got his predecessor as well in Kai von Berlo.
Kai von Berlo, yeah. Do you know how Luke Hartog got the funding to do his first proper car racing?
Right, go on.
He was about 13 years old. I can tell this story now because he's in the car. He was about 13 years old, and he went to a sort of drinks party along with his mum. He got taken along because he couldn't. He was too young to be left at home, but maybe too old to think, oh, this is a bit sad with adults. But no, he thought, I know, I'll get involved with all the adults. And he knew one of his mum's friends who sold the big green egg barbecue things, which at the time weren't as big as they are now, and he basically got a commission deal with the guy that was really struggling to sell big green eggs at the time, and he said, I'll sell them for you and it'll help pay for my racing. And he did. So selling big green eggs was how Luke Hartog got the budget together. Imagine that, a 13-year-old selling you quite expensive barbecue.
It reminds me, when you see Luke Hartog and any other racing driver, it reminds me of Jörg Bergmeister and Patrick Long. It's that kind of height difference. It's a good 1.5 feet, isn't it? Well over a metre difference.
Jörg Bergmeister set on it in a Carrera GT, now a 20-year-old road car, just over 7 minutes around the Nürburgring with new tyres on. But I think they maybe had to put the top off because he's so tall.
Yeah, he would have started with a helmet. We had a 718 as our safety car for the 992 Endurance Cup that Creventic ran at Spa. That's back on first weekend of September this year. I expect even more cars to be involved in that. I just did notice as well, and maybe this is something for Nick to have a look at as well, there are 1 or 2 cars running, and this was in the supplementary regulations I noticed the other day, the technical regs. that allows you to run a rear-facing camera or radar device, even if your car wasn't originally fitted with it. There are a couple of aftermarket versions of that, and there was some technical regs about how they have to be secured and where they are. And there was something in the back window of the Visit Dubai Porsche, and also not just that, it also the decals across the rear window, which are brilliant to stop the glare of other people's headlights, had a gap for it as well. So I'm wondering if that was one of those. We have had 31 cars out on the circuit, and including Jake Hill, who is now behind the wheel of the blue and black Era Motorsport Ferrari. Slightly new colour scheme. Normally used to see the Era cars just being a sort of a French blue metallic.
It's got a little bit of a Scottish thistle purple to it. Of course, they have a Scottish driver in Ryan Dale, and I think there's a little Scottish influence. They're all off for the MP Motorsport Mercedes.
And that again is on the rundown. Is that on the rundown from turn 9 to 10, Pete?
I just caught it. I was just glancing at the timing screen and I saw this Mercedes backwards. Oh dear.
Right.
So that's the number 19 MP Motorsport Mercedes. Have we got a tracker?
Yeah.
Oh, it's moving.
Just coming. No, it's coming. So that must have been early on in the lap. It's just coming through at the parabolic at turn 9 now and heading on to the back straight. Good lap being put together by the driver Vasily Vladikin of Continental Racing by Simpson Motorsport Audi. That's the number 69 car, currently in 29th position, fastest of anybody in the first sector. Personal best in the middle sector. Oh, just about holding on to track limits as he comes to the final corner. Tricky downhill right-hander. Got to get the car balance right so you don't run wide and get the lap taken away. 2:01.275, and Vladikin goes to the top, but following him through in pretty close quarters.
Glenn Wood for Garth Walden Racing Australia. Their Mercedes goes to the top of the AM class, but right to the top is SMP Racing with Vitaly Petrov, the former Renault Formula 1 driver, 159.99, but on average it's parodying competition. However, the driver ID I don't think has been switched, because Ahmed Al-Harti is showing on our timing screen, but he did the first session, so that cannot be correct.
Correct. That car's just in a 2 minutes .0. Averages very, very tight indeed. 1:59.442 is the fastest time. Oh, no, I've just seen a 1:59 flat by Jake Hill. What a way to announce yourself to GT Racing internationally. First time in the Ferrari 296, and he's put in the fastest time in qualifying, and he's on a used set of tyres.
A second quicker than anyone in this session so far. 4 tenths quicker than Daniel de Jong, 9 tenths quicker than Vitaly Petrov. I want to see what Harry King's going to do, though, the young former Carrera Cup superstar, Super Cup superstar, and straight away to the top of the time sheets. Oh, wow, a 1:58.361.
As my colleague Charles Dressing would have been saying right now, they're starting to throw overhand right now. This is getting serious. Harry King, Carrera Cup champion in the UK, winner at Bathurst last year in the part of that GT3 event. Luke Hartog in second for Dynamic GT he's done a 59.1. We're now looking not just at the quick drivers in this session, but the averages as they come up. And 1:58.6, that's incredibly impressive by Pure Racing.
1:58.3 is the lap time.
Yeah, the average.
A 1:58.6 average.
Yes.
Wow. And for tomorrow, for the race, you know, this is a race where we have no safety cars. There is no reset. You can't just burn up driver time and hope you'll get it back with safety cars. If you lose a tenth, that tenth is gone. You're not getting it back. So if you have a good balance across your drivers, you can win this race overall.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Dan Harper at the wheel of the new BMW M4 GT3 Evo before Almanar Racing by Team WRT, 159.218 for him. That puts an average for that crew, 159.254, and they go to third. But our former pole-sitting car, the car that was on provisional pole after qualifying 1, is Luke Hartog. I never realised he was so tall until, you know, yeah, he's...
Mind, there's nothing
tall
to him. I mean, I don't know what he weighs. If he was built the same way as me, he'd probably weigh 150 kilos, but I bet he doesn't. He's a big gangly lad.
I feel like certainly weight-wise, you could fit two of him and sit inside of either of us.
Well, I came out. I did well over Christmas and made sure I didn't add any weight. So I came out at just on about 103 kilos, which for me is not bad. Bear in mind I was 125 kilos. A picture that's just popped up on my timeline, sitting in this very seat from 7 or 8 years ago. So I'd like to get down to under 100 kilos again, but I think that might not happen this week with the quality of hospitality.
No. 159 flat for Luke Hartog there in that number 24 car. Hartog, I mean, I was so pleased when I saw that the announcement just over 12 months ago that he was going to go to the United States, race in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, and he just delivered straight away for Kelly Moss Racing by winning the championship.
Jake Hill, a 158.804. I think that is the fastest lap of anybody. We've had an 8.07.
No, for 158.3 by Harry King.
Oh yes, of course. Yes, sorry, my apologies.
But by pretty much everybody else, yes. Harry King is operating in his own little universe at the moment.
Yeah.
He's just gone purple again in Sector 1 to be absolute best in Sector 1.
Jake Hill take being half a second away from Harry King, though.
I mean, I think that's an amazing start for Jake Hill when you consider Harry King is not only he's relatively inexperienced in GT3, he has some GT3 experience, but he knows exactly what a Porsche 911 should be doing on the limit. He's been in a Porsche Cup car for the last 4 or 5 years.
Let's pick off some of the other class leaders. It's Victor Scheitar for Winwood Racing in third position in the number 16 Mercedes AMG, who heads the Pro-Am. He's done a 59 flat, and their average is a 59 flat. That's what you want as well. Drivers who can do similar times. In AM, it's the Paradigm competition BMW. Darren Young, very much not an amateur, but in that number 991 BMW. How can a BMW have a number 991? That's
throwing me off as well.
Massively thrown me a curveball. Darren's just done a 2 minutes .2. And with a 158.8 first time out, they've got an average of 159.445. Darren, very, very impressive driver as well. Is he rated as an AM?
He's a bronze an AM, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Another fastest lap of the qualifying session for Harry King, 158.187. Now, for the last 4 or 5 years or so, many people, particularly in the UK, have been talking about watch out for this kid. He is quick, and he's not necessarily got all the big GT3 opportunities yet, but you feel that he's just on the crest of those opportunities. He's proven himself in the Porsche Super Cup, winning 4 races there, winning the Carrera Cup Benelux, Carrera Cup GB, and he's proving that give him the opportunity in the right car, he's the real deal.
He was outstanding on the mountain last year. And I just seen as well that Absolute Racing have signed up for the Maguire's Bathurst 12 hours with 2/3 of last year's winning team. Matty Campbell back with them as well. Still some news coming out of Australia as that entry list continues to build. That is in 3 weekends' time. So not this weekend, not the weekend after, not the weekend after that, but the one after that. That is the denouement, the grand finale of our fabulous 4 endurance races, bringing to you live, free and uninterrupted across the world from RSL and our partners.
I don't think we've seen the best yet out of the heart of racing. Zachary Robichon was fastest of all yesterday with a 158.2.
Yeah.
Now, Harry King's just gone underneath that benchmark. At the moment, the best time for Zachary Robichon is a 2 flat .126. In fact,
who was first out? Was that Ian James?
Ian James was a 159.7, albeit on the slightly newer tyres.
59. 7, yes.
Yeah,
sorry.
159.7. So I think we'll see Robichon going up the order. In fact, yes, we have 159.284. That's getting a bit closer to it now. And Heart of Racing now up to 7th in there. Not Aston Martin, Mercedes-AMG with SPS.
Which is a liaison they've had for a while.
Yes.
That is effectively an SPS car, and it's a set of drivers from Heart of Racing, including Gray Newell, who is the driving force and has been the finance behind the
Newell family have been, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Gray's the son, yes. They've got one of the Valkyrie road cars in a beautiful Heart of Racing dark sort of matte blue. It's gorgeous.
Well, and of course, that is the finance behind the hypercar program as well, which we will see at. Now, is that going to Daytona, that car? No, they're waiting until Qatar, so I'll see that in Qatar, which I'm very much looking forward to. $11 million raised for the Seattle Children's Pediatric Heart, Seattle Pediatric Heart Unit, with their charity works down through the years. Tremendous effort from everybody involved. Luke Hartog's in the pit in the second place dynamic car. Victor Scheitar for Winward in the third overall and best of the Pro-Am cars. Still some green times on the screen, which means people are improving. Thomas Aikin of Optimum Motorsport in the McLaren, 159.2 last time around. Also 159.5 for Robert Renauer in Herbert's Porsche, number 91, good enough for 6th for that car at the moment. 159.4 for Jamie Day, and he's improved again, and 159.299 for Come To You Racing. It was announced today that Jamie Day is going to be one of the Aston Martin supported young drivers.
Academy driver, yes. He's only 19. He's won actually F4 races out here in the United Arab Emirates. Race winner in British GT4, and Aston Martin are really starting to support a lot of young drivers and giving people opportunities. And to go with the team that won the Spa 24-hour overall last year, first time ever for Aston Martin, go with Come To You Racing. What a great opportunity for a young, for a teenage racing driver to get there and have a go at winning this prestigious event overall. Really interesting qualifying too here. Some really hot lap times, but Harry King 158.187. The only drivers who have got anywhere close to that are about 6-7 tenths off that. That is impressive. Peter Snowden's always said he's done quite a bit of work with him at Thruxton, and he says he just wears the car. Was his, if you can imagine that. It's just a part of him. He drives on instinct, he drives on feel, and you know what? He's a lovely young chap as well.
I love the fact that we haven't completely daylight lit this circuit. There are still pools of darkness rather than pools of light in places. Perhaps holes of darkness and the pools of light, but you know what I mean. It is not absolutely super bright out there. The headlights are still having to do a job, and I love that about this circuit. We're down to the checkered flag, and Pure Racing then at the moment on top from Dynamic GT in the GT3 class. Then it's Almanar Racing by Team WRT BMW in 4th, because the first of the Pro-Am cars is between them. That's Victor Scheitar's Winward Racing, number 16. And in the AM category, it is a very creditable 7th position for Darren Young and the rest of the Paradigm competition in the BMW. Let's see if Nick is patrolling the pit lane.
Looked like Harry King had just escaped to the back of the garage to take his helmet and hands off. I would imagine it will be Thomas Preining, the 2023 DTM champion, who they'll put in. They could put Alexei Nezov in, a good young silver-graded driver, 21, but they could also put Thomas Preining in, former Carrera Cup Germany champion, and yeah, to win the DTM in the hugely competitive era that it's in right now, he is also the real deal. You'll find us saying that a lot this weekend about several drivers up and down the entry list. There are several drivers that names I'm sure are well known to sports car fans, and there'll be some that'll be new names like Jake Hill, that if you're not a follower of domestic British motorsport, you watch out for him too. But he was, the car's average is not quite up where they wanted to be just yet, but it's a totally new project. But yeah, he was one of the quickest drivers in that session amongst many drivers who have a lot more GT3 experience.
So the average is coming into play now. And I tell you what, you look at the average, 158.5 for Harry King. We'll talk to him in a second. And the worst is a 2:01.6 for the Team Motorpark Mercedes in 30th position. Obviously, we haven't seen any laps by the Attemptor Audi. If you weren't with us earlier on, huge incident for that car. And the right rear of that car absolutely destroyed by Zhou Guangyu in Shubi Wang, in that car. Right, Nick Dearman has the man who has put in the fastest lap that we have seen in official competition this week, a 158.187 for Pure Racing for Porsche number 92. Here's Harry King.
Congratulations, Harry. I think certainly the fastest lap we've seen so far this weekend from anyone. Is it just a case of, well, obviously you were very quick, but the conditions are really coming to the cars now?
To be honest, you're asking the wrong person. My experience with endurance GT racing is quite minimal. This is my first ever event in a 992 GT3R. So, yeah, I think obviously the cooler conditions definitely suited the car. However, you know, it's important to note that we weren't on new tyres. Alex started with the new, so it was a bit into the unknown. Of course, low fuel is something I've not experienced in this car yet, but I'm thoroughly impressed by what it was capable of.
So your first run out in the GT3R, so you have a lot of experience in, I call them lesser Porsches, but you know what I mean. I mean, what's the big difference between this and the full-fat machine?
There's a lot. Of course, you've got the electronic aids, the traction control, the ABS, in addition to a lot more aero, but you also got to make sure that your driving style is adapted because, you know, it's not a 30-minute race that I'm used to. You've got to make the car go the distance, and what better place to do that than here in the 24 hours of Dubai. So it'll be a steep learning curve, but, you know, I've got the best people around me to educate me and to, yeah, bring me on, and certainly it's going well so far.
So is this a one-off here in Dubai? Will you be with the team for the full season?
I have a strong relation with Pure Racing. Of course, we have that LMP2 program which is coming together, so of course it makes sense to continue with them in the GT3 world, and certainly, yeah, this is what I'm really enjoying, and yeah, I look forward to the season with them.
Great stuff. There's a very good chance your team will be in pole overall, but well done for your contribution.
Thank you very much. Let's wait for Thomas.
I like the fact that 3 drivers have to contribute to your starting position. Yeah. People might say it's a bit of a gimmick.
No.
But this is endurance racing. And everybody, the strategy about how you put the second and third drivers in, the strategy about who decides to push with the tyre and who doesn't, how much fuel you put in. Do you say, let's run our arm and let him run for 15 minutes and let him build up to something? Do you say, nah, we're going to put about 15 minutes worth of fuel in total, so everybody gets an outlap, a flyer, possibly one more and come in, and therefore your car's a bit lighter?
But then of course, then the best laid plans out the window they go when you think, well, yes, we went for 1 outlap and 2 flyers, but then both flyers they get held up, and then you're like, what do we do now? Oh, there's a red flag. What do we do now? Yeah. Oh no! So that's where the best teams like your, you know, like Herbert, etc. There's so many up and down the, you know, WRTs, etc., who are able to adapt quickly to these situations. And we do have teams which are, again, very much specialist of the 24H series and its little quirks and how to get the very best out of the rulebook. And over time, they've built up that experience of how to get the best out of it. But yeah, hugely impressive there from Harry King. Not a factory driver for anybody at the moment, but I don't see that situation staying that way for a whole lot longer.
He didn't win the Porsche shootout, did he?
He's been to the Porsche Junior shootout on several occasions,
but he's not won
it. Never been picked. No. Yeah. And well, read into that what you wish. I mean, his pace is absolutely fantastic. He's raced with Lechner Racing for several years in the Super Cup, and they always hire the cream of the crop, or have in the car the cream.
And what Walter Lechner doesn't know about 911s is not worth knowing, particularly in Carrera Cup, Super Cup, etc. Runs the Carrera Cup Middle East, of course. Slightly different out here. It's effectively a single team operation out here. We've had some good drivers come through the Carrera Cup Middle East as well. make use of this circuit quite a lot.
Harry's had a lot of success in the Middle East Carrera Cup, you know, as well. Now, one thing we should note, double World Rally Champion Kalle Rovanperä, this is his competitive GT3 debut. He had some great success last year on his weekends off in a Porsche Carrera Cup car, winning races in the Carrera Cup Benelux. But this is his proper competitive debut in an 24-hour endurance race, and indeed in full GT3 machinery, and he's got an enormous fan base who I'm sure will be following his progress. So he has taken out the number 969 Proton Huber competition car for this qualifying session. It will be in the number 27 Heart of Racing car, Gray Newell, part of that Heart of Racing operation. So they've given the American driver the honour of taking on this final qualifying session. For the provisionally pole-sitting pure racing Porsche at the moment, it is Thomas Preining, their star, the 2023 DTM champion, taking that out. Klaus Bachler will go with the dynamic GT number 24 Porsche, which at the moment sits 4/10 off on the average, so that will be quite a lot to cling back on his Porsche stablemate Thomas Preining. But let's see. Gabriel Piana, former winner of this race, will take out the Winward Mercedes, which currently leads in Pro-Am in third, and Max Hesse, the young German who's had so much success at the Nürburgring Nordschleife and the Nürburgring Langstrecken series, he will take out this brand new BMW M4 GT3 Evo for Almanar Racing by Team WRP.
That's 7.5 minutes here, Peter. Where's your money going? Porsches first and second, Mercedes, BMW, Ferrari. So 3 different manufacturers in the top 5. No, actually four in the top 5. Excuse me.
4 in the top 5, yes. The Porsches are looking strong, certainly in the cool conditions. Harry King said there the car seems to come alive as the temperature gets cooler. Of course, we've got quite a long darkness time here for the Dubai 24 hours, so that is certainly pleasing listening for the Porsche teams, of which there are several, but there's a huge number of Mercedes-AMG equipped teams as well, so we're going to have an absolute symphony of 6.2 V8 Mercedes echoing around the Dubai Autodrome. So on to the first flying laps then. Jaap van Lagen, the Dutch veteran for MP Motorsport, a 159.438 for him, a 201.545 on the first flyer for Gray Newell. Patrick Niederhauser, a late addition to the Manamuri Energy by Ebby Motors team, a 159.892 for him. A 2-flat.668 for Patrick Liddy in the Dragon Racing Ferrari. Rob Huff in the Team Parker Racing Bentley Continental GT, a 2-flat.706 on his first flying lap. So joining me in the commentary box here, the Global Broadcast Centre, right up on the, I think it's the 3rd floor of the grandstand, is Joe Bradley. Joe, you've been down there in the thick of it, down in the pits. What have you made of this qualifying session so far?
It's quite a fever building, isn't it? There's been quite a fever building since the beginning of the week, really, with our private test sessions and like. But this is what is all important. And you know, I think I've asked the question, and doubtlessly Nick will ask the question of how important pole position is. And in the scheme of things, it's the last thing on people's minds by Sunday lunchtime. However, right now, it's all about being at the front of this field, and there is an element of, we call it bragging rights, but these are fierce competitors, instinctively fierce competitors, and every one of those drivers wants to be in a successful team. And right now, success means being as close to the front of the grid as possible.
And we see this at the Nürburgring 24-hour. You've got roughly the same number of top spec cars. In SP9, they'll normally have around 30 cars. We've got 31 here in GT3. And there, if you're qualifying back in P25, you're likely not going to win the race because there's no safety car to reset things. So if you miss the bus, say if you have a disastrous qualifying session here, yes, I know that if you're on pole or every 4th, it's not necessarily a big deal. But if you're back in 24th, it is a big deal. You're putting yourself so on the back foot.
Looking at the 24-8 series history books, yes, if you're not Herbert Motorsport, well, they do seem to have a very tactical noose when it comes to things like that. But I get that, and there are teams here with teams of drivers who, you know, they'll be happy with the top 10. It's like all of motorsport. You know, yes, ideally we want to win the race, want to be on the top step. And in the back of your mind, even if you are qualifying 25th, that top 10 is still very much a possibility. That begins to win by the time we get to, say, midnight on Saturday and then, you know, sunrise on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, right now you want to give yourself the best advantage. 33 cars, 33 GT3 cars, let alone the other classes. 33 cars have to pick their way through the slower classes. And anything can happen in a 24-hour race, especially here at the Dubai Autodrome. The nature of the track, we have had runs of incidents at this race. For us, the spectators and the fans, that's what's intriguing about sport, live sport. You don't know what's going to happen, and you can be the fastest car here. When you look at the driver lineup in that pure racing car, which is currently on the provisional pole, you know, I mean, find me a weak link there. There just simply isn't.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
The weak link is the fact that it's a 24-hour race. Anything can happen.
Well, that's very true. You've got to execute, and right now, in terms of a fast lap in qualifying, Thomas Preining has just set the fastest lap of anyone all week, 1:58.001. So not to be shown up by Harry King, he goes out and goes even quicker by 0.187 of a second. That's really impressive on fairly not oldish. That they've got 14 laps on them.
I have an unforgettable memory of Thomas Preining.
Okay.
It was at the Jackie Stewart charity event. I remember the castle where this was, and there was an MS UK sanctioned hill climb on the road, basically from the front gate up to the castle. However, there was a few display runs in a 2012 Red Bull with Thomas Preining doing donuts in this Formula One Red Bull from 2012, and the sound of the V10, I think it would be the V10 at that era, was just phenomenal, and the thing just sort of taking off from my little commentary box. Phenomenal. That's what I'll remember Thomas Preining doing, unless, of course, he puts in the quickest lap here at Dubai.
I've got already some great memories in his of commentating on some of his career, and he is the real deal. His father Andreas was actually a Grand Prix motorcycle racer in the World Championship, and I think it was 250cc World Championship Grand Prix motorbikes in the 80s when it was proper cool.
I think he was the Red Bull. He was part of the Red Bull Formula One display team. Who he got to drive the Formula One cars at various venues, and this was quite a different venue because it wasn't a racetrack. It was basically an access road up to a very historic castle, and I will remember the castle's name. Where's Bruce Jones when you need him? Because I was there with Bruce doing that. It was great sight to see. Another great sight to see always is when the sun goes down here in Dubai. The lights that made their debut last year, Peter, for this event, this is the first time I'm seeing the lights here, and they are doing a cracking job, certainly for our cameras. And we need to ask drivers, don't we? And I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that over the course of prowling the pit lane, of just what difference it's made to the track. Some newcomers obviously don't know any different, but the more seasoned drivers here at this event will probably find them a massive advantage, because you can at least see your braking points.
And for those enjoying the pictures on Creventic Motorsports TV and on our radio show Vision channels, it's well, the cars look fantastic under the lights as well. Not been a great third session of the day though for Dynamic GT. Klaus Bachler, car number 24. They were sitting second going into this for third and final session. They were just behind the Pure Racing, but they've dropped back to fourth, only a 1:59.4, 1.4 seconds off his teammate, or his Porsche stablemate Thomas Preining. So Klaus Bachler is going to have to try and bring something out here, but he has just gone personal best in Sector 1 and in Sector 2. So keep a close watch on Klaus Bachler. Meanwhile, the Windward Mercedes Car 16 Gabriele Piana, former winner of this race, they sit in the lead of the Pro-Am class at the moment on average. They sit second, and he has had a 1:58.5. He's really the only driver to get anywhere near that time from Thomas Preining, who's already out the car. Big smiles from Harry King, big smiles from all the team. I think they know it's in the bag.
It's about tyre management as well in these three driver qualifying sessions. It's about how you take the energy out the tyres, and the engineers will have set the car up to spread that energy across the 3 sessions. You will, I mean, the quickest time came with Harry King, and then an even quicker time when really the tyres should have had no life left by the time they're getting into the 3rd segment. But again, limiting the amount of laps you do, you know, people like Harry King and Thomas and they know when they've maximised their run and optimised their run.
Thomas Preining looking the king of cool there. Big smiles, going, yeah, no bother, guys. Lifts his helmet off, speaking to his teammates, saying, yeah,
It was
fine,
a bit
easy.
of inter-team rivalry there. Did you see that? Harry King went, how did you find that little bit of 100th or whatever it was?
You know
difference?
that Harry King's going to be sitting in the hotel tonight
Look
looking
how
at the
smiling
data.
Thomas Preining is. Look how smiling he is. Because the first person you've got to beat is your teammate, of course. And it makes a lot of difference when you do, especially when he's Harry King.
But for Harry King, that's huge, huge speed, because Thomas Preining lives in 992 GT3Rs. He's been there since the very beginning of that car's life. He's raced it all over the world. He's won the DTM in it. He knows that is his pair of slippers.
Yeah, true.
For Harry King, it's still pretty new, that car, to him.
Harry King came here thinking he could beat his time.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
No, of course not, but we must.
No way in Harry
It's
King's
good to give a
mind,
bit of balance. So, Come To You Racing, good to have 2 of their cars here, car 40 and 41, with the latest Aston Martin GT3 Vantage Evo. Nicholas Bert taking on the qualifying duties for car 41. A little bit further down the order at the moment, sitting in 25th. They'll hope to be a little bit further up the order than that. Meanwhile, the 991 there, Toby Sowry, who's really impressing in sports car racing, both in prototypes and GT machinery. He is that car paradigm competition is in 7th on the average at the moment. Klaus Bachler has got a little bit closer to the times with a 158.823, but that puts that dynamic GT Porsche in 3rd at the moment. So looking strong for Porsche right now.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's their turn, isn't it? Can't discount the BMW there, the M4 GT3 Evo, the Almanar Racing with, of course, WRT under the label. They can't be discounted. All right, we're talking about qualifying at the moment, Peter, quite rightly, but it's, again, I think in race conditions we might see something different evolving. But isn't that a lovely sort of dynamic there with regards to manufacturing involvement in the top 10?
Well, the thing is, no non-German manufacturer has ever won this race. Only German manufacturers have won the Dubai 24 Hours. So the closest non-German car is the Ferrari of Dragon Racing of Patrick Lydia's spin for the number 7 SMP Mercedes of Sergei Sirotkin, the former Williams Formula 1 driver. He's looped the Mercedes there. Manages to recycle it with just under 15 seconds left on the clock, so that'll be yellow flags out in that part of the circuit. And looking, he's just coming out of turn 7 at the moment. Ooh, flames coming out of the side exit exhaust of that 6.2 V8, trying to recycle it.
There is 0 time on the clock and the checkered flag has come out, so that's not going to cause any issues to what's left. He gets the car moving. The number 7 Mercedes has refired up, and we'll get a little replay as to exactly what happened on the live stream. And he just got tripped up by a back marker there, just back marker closing the door, both on the brakes, and he looped the car around quite harmlessly, though. Didn't even leave the track, I think, other than taking a couple of marker boards out on the inside of the corner.
It looked like the other car was just trundling on the racing line, which is not on in qualifying.
It might not be trundling.
No, not in this session, because it's mainly the top drivers in this. So
that is true.
That's a bit unlucky there for Sergei Sirotkin. But it's well, that's the sign of a team that have got pace in the pocket. Where we still had 5 minutes left in the qualifying session, and they're already high-fiving and hugging each other because they knew that they were far and away in pole position. I mean, to be on pole position on average by half a second, that is ominous for the rest. Windward Racing, they are in 2nd and top of the Pro-Am class, but Nick Damon's down in the pits with I'm sure, very happy pole sitters Pure Racing.
Yeah, I've been hanging around for a while, waiting for it to be official, waiting for the time to run out. Thomas Preining, so yeah, fantastic performance by the Pure Racing team, and particularly yourself, you managed to get the fastest lap of the session.
Yeah, thank you. The team's done an amazing job. We've had a good preparation for the event yesterday and this morning, so I'm really happy with the car we got at the moment. I hope we still learn something in the night practice when maybe the temperatures go down a bit for the race. And yeah, all in all, if everything stays as it seems, it's the perfect starting position, obviously, and we'll try to stay there.
Looks like the Porsche is well suited to this track, and also with the Michelin tyres. It seems to be like a move back to the front in many ways of the GT3 cars.
I couldn't hear the first part.
It looks like the change to the Michelin tyres has moved the Porsche forward compared to the other GT3s here.
For me, honestly, it's difficult to say. We're still learning about the tyre. It's a lot of unknowns. Often when we have a question mark, we don't know if it's car or tyre, so we're still in between. But all in all, honestly, it's working well. Also in the long runs, keeps the performance, and yeah, I think it's definitely making everybody's life a bit easier, especially during the day, and in the night, usually any tyre is going to last anyway.
You say you got some stuff to learn for the night practice. Is that really to see, the car needs to be quick all through the day, because you don't have a situation you have, for example, in America with yellow flags. You have to be fast the whole time. So where do you set it for? Where do you set it to be at its quickest? What's the ideal point? Is it like, halfway through the temperature, or does it need to be quick at night? What are you looking for where that absolute sweet spot is?
Usually you try to find something in between that always kind of works. Obviously, it's impossible to make the perfect car for the whole race, but all in all, I think with how the car drove this morning, we were quite close to target. And yeah, like I said, you kind of need to build an all-rounder that has a decent balance when it cools down, and this is what we need to test now in the night. Obviously, tire temps might become an issue later on in the race, so yeah, still a few things to try out, but I think we're in a good way.
Congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you.
Great job, that. Great job.
So that is
solid job by all of that team.
Yep. Yeah, Pure Racing. I mean, they've got such a story. They're owned by Edgar Chokanovsky, who moved to the UK and worked as a mechanic and an engineer in the Carrera Cup before starting his own team. They had a lot of help from Herberth to begin with, which probably gives you a little bit of a hint of why they're so good. Yeah, but then they also work with Manthey Racing, who are they're not a factory team, but they're they're partly owned by Porsche. So it's that support from Manthey is massively important. And as I said, Thomas Preining is a fully fledged Porsche factory driver, so it's very, very helpful to have someone like that in the lineup. However, there are loads of other factory drivers in the lineup, so yeah, very, very strong. But also, you got to give a lot of credit. We're looking at the absolute optimum lap time of Harry King and Thomas Preining, but Alex Malekin, a 1:58.873, which was comfortably ahead of his peers and quite a lot of other very high-profile drivers further down the field as well. So really, really impressive job by that Pure Racing crew. They're probably now thinking, right, we've got pace in hand here. We need to go to not quite belt and braces mode, but we've got to make sure that the car is absolutely double, triple, quadruple checked, and it's going to be about keeping clean and staying out of trouble for them, because they've got the pace. They've really got the pace to make a very big charge at this 20th edition of the Dubai 24 Hours. In second behind them, Gabriele Piana, former winner of this race for Windward Racing. But let's look at the average times then. A 1:58.353 average for Pure Racing. That is very, very ominous for the rest of the field in their Porsche. Then it was the Windward Racing Mercedes who sit top of the GT3 Pro-Am class. Dynamic GT in their Porsche, they're in third, with Almanar Racing by Team WRT in the brand new M4 GT3 Evo fourth, and Dragon Racing, the first of the Ferraris, with a great run there from Patrick Liddy at the end of that qualifying session. 1:58.368 for them. Herberth Motorsport, they are ever present in 24H Series racing, with Ralph Bohn, Jake Persson, Kai van Berlo and Robert Renauer. They're making up that lineup. SMP Racing with their Mercedes, despite that late spin there, they are 7th overall and will start on the 4th row for the race tomorrow. 991, it's not a Porsche, it's a BMW, it's Paradigm Competition. They sit in 8th. Then it's Haupt Racing Team. Their Mercedes number 4 is in 9th. And rounding out the top 10 is the MP Motorsport, the bright orange Mercedes car number 19, with an average of 1:59.630. Optimum Motorsport, the British crew with their McLaren, are in 11th. Then it's Manamori Energy by Ebi Motors, who won the Middle East Trophy last season. Haas RT sit in 13th overall, with Herbert Motorsport in 14th with their 269 car, and the Heart of Racing by SPS with their Mercedes car 27th rounds out the top 15. 16th is the first of the Aston Martins, Come To You Racing, followed by Into Africa Racing by Dragon Racing. Then it's Proton Huber Competition 969, that's the Cali Rovanpera car, rally fans. 19th is the Hoffer Racing Mercedes car 11, and rounding out the top 20, Huber Motorsport with their number 20 car, with an average time of 2 minutes, 0.498 seconds. In 21st, it is the Earl Bamber Motorsport team with their Aston Martin. Earl Bamber himself doing the qualifying duties in Q3 there. A 2 flat 0.513 is their average. Great to see Scuderia Praha back in 24H Series racing with their Ferrari. They will start 22nd. They would maybe hope to be a little bit further up the order than that, but they'll fight for sure. Herbert Motorsport, likewise, you should see them go forward from 23rd. Then it's Era Motorsport, newcomers to 24H Series. Brilliant to have that American outfit here. Come To You Racing, their second car, number 41, is in 25th. The Team Parker Bentley will roll off from 26th position tomorrow. Team Moto Park with their Mercedes will start 27th. Then it's Garth Walden Racing Australia in 28th. 29th is the Car Collection Motorsport Porsche, which was the first car on the scene with that pretty dramatic incident we saw at the start of GT3 qualifying. And Continental Racing by Simpson Motorsport with their Audi, they will start from 30th tomorrow with a 201.945 as their average lap time. Brilliant to see such a packed entry of proper quality GT3 entries from a huge number of manufacturers from all around the globe. They will go racing tomorrow here at the Dubai Autodrome. Can't wait for that. But the action does not stop. We've got the Clio Cup Middle East will be coming up soon, and it will be Joe Bradley and Phil Anson who will take you through all of the action for that. But let's have a look at the highlights of this fairly dramatic qualifying session. So the action does not stop here then. Clio Cup Middle East coming up shortly. Join us in a moment. Goodbye.